What's going on, fellow A-plussers? It's your boy, Adam Perez. We're back once again with a brand new A-plus Hero Report for you guys today. Going live today over on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch as we're going to go ahead and break down 6 incredible topics for you guys, get into some live viewer questions towards the end as well. We got a huge lineup to definitely go ahead and dive into today. We got some brand new trailers in regards to Thunderbolts, along with Captain America 4 we're going to dive into. Star Wars is getting ready to go ahead and drop a brand new trilogy, apparently, as Simon Kinberg is going to be writing and producing. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We also have a Mass Effect television series in development and a ton more, guys. So sit back, relax, let's enjoy the weekend together, and we'll see you on the other side. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC television, and movie news. As we go ahead and break down and wrap up your weekend, right? It is I, your host, Adam Perez, as always, joined none other but my co-host, good old Stuart Branscombe. What's going on, buddy? Always good to see you, man.
Hey, good to be here. Man, yeah. How are you doing?
I've been better, man. I've been better. You know, last week I felt like I was dealing with the stomach bug last weekend. I got over it, and I feel like just as of yesterday, it just hit me again, man. So your boy is struggling again this weekend. I don't know what's going on here or what I'm eating that's messing me up, but don't feel too good. Outside of that, though, when I was feeling great, man, it's been a great week. Had celebrated my my boy's third birthday this past Thursday. He just turned 3, so that's been pretty incredible to watch. We had a great little time with the family. Nothing too big this year. And then we went to a Linkin Park concert on Friday. Yeah, they came out here to Arlington, Texas. They had a couple bands, Bad Omens, Helmet, and there was somebody else that played before them. But we got the opportunity to see the new lead singer and Emily with the band and stuff, and it was awesome, man. I had a really good time. It was my first Linkin Park concert for sure. I wish I had gotten a chance to see them when Chester was still here, but I think Emily's doing a remarkable job. So we had a blast, man. We had a really good time on Friday.
That's awesome.
Yeah, what you been up to, man? What you do this week?
Not much. I actually just started bartending at the Alamo Draft House. Not at the actual bar, but at the service bar area, so I don't have to deal with guests or anything. And so far, I'm liking it. I'm still like super slow when it comes to making cocktails, but like when it comes to everything else, I pretty much got the hang of it. I'm enjoying it, actually.
Nice, man. Nice. Do you at a movie theater, I mean, do you personally have to get like a license? Or is it okay if like just the theater itself has a bartending license? Like, do you have to take a test or anything like that for it?
All I need is the regular health license for serving food.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't need a bartending license, luckily. Although I should probably get one later on, just so I have it. So in case I ever need to change a job, it's like, hey, not only do I have a bartending license, I also got some experience too. So
Yeah, I
it'll
think
probably be something I get later on.
I bartended for like 9 months tops, maybe 10 months or so, years ago. It's been a while. I went to ABC bartending school. I think the classes were like two weeks long, but I think it was almost like a 4 or 5 day a week sort of classes. Got my bartending license for a little bit, but it was fun. It was a fun experience, man. I absolutely loved being able to mix drinks and just chat it up with people. So yeah, it was good times for sure.
Yeah.
How's box office looking? How's the movies going this week? Do you know?
Heretic's been doing pretty good. It's that new horror movie
Yeah.
with the two girls like basically going around door to door telling people it's I think that, because they're Mormon, so they're telling people about Joseph Smith, and then this guy invites them in, and of course he turns out to be like a total creep. But like I do like what I've seen so far, because just specifically the dialogue, because like it's like the entire first 2/3 of the movie before like the actual horror begins. It's just him basically challenging every single thing that the two of them say, and the two of them just like kind of being speechless, really. And I'm like, I like this. I like it. And this is like almost before like all the horror stuff happens. Then like kind of as they reveal like that things aren't what they appear. The big thing being him like saying, "Oh, my wife's just in the other room. Don't worry." And then after a while, they start to realize that that's probably not true. And he just kind of goes, "Now let let me ask you something. Do you still believe my wife is in the other room just because I told you that? Or, are you going to finally actually, no, or I can't remember how he words it, but basically it's like a metaphor for, do you really still believe in God just because someone told you he existed? I'm like, oh, I see what he did there.
I gotta,
Yeah,
I gotta,
it's
I
just,
gotta
it
check it
looks
out.
interesting.
Yeah, I gotta check it out. I've heard some things about it for sure. I do like me a good psychological horror for sure. So, but yeah, that's definitely on my list. I don't even know what else is in movie theaters right now, but I would like to try and maybe hit up a movie this week if I can. So we'll see.
No, it's out in theaters today, and I think tomorrow. It's not a movie, but it's the first 3 episodes of Dragon Ball Daima English dub.
Yeah, me and my friend Jonathan, we're gonna try and catch it. We just forgot to get tickets for it. I have seen the first two on Netflix. I think the third episode might have dropped this week, if I'm not mistaken. I have to check it out, but I haven't checked out the third episode as of yet. But aren't they on like episodes 4 or 5 or something like that already?
Yeah, on Crunchyroll, they're on episode 5.
Episode 5 already. So yeah, so Netflix is a little bit behind, which is a little bit of a bummer, but I do plan on trying to catch up for sure. But yeah, we wanted to go ahead and get tickets to see it on the big screen because we always do it for all like the Dragon Ball movies and stuff. We've seen all of them on the big screen together, but we didn't get a chance, so we completely forgot to get tickets for this one, unfortunately. But yeah, guys, if you guys have checked out Dragon Ball Daima, let me know your guys' thoughts. Yeah, the last movie I saw in theaters was Venom 3: The Last Dance. And then and I just watched for the first time Long Legs at home.
Ooh, that one's fun.
Yeah, that was a really good one. I was really into it the entire time. I highly recommend it for sure if you guys want to check it out.
I
And to
always thought like it felt like they filmed all of Nicolas Cage's scenes first and just let him improvise, do whatever he wanted, and then they wrote the script after that. That's the vibe that I got from it.
Yeah, it's one of those things too. It made me laugh a little bit too because I remember when I was watching him, it reminded me of a question that Marcelino had brought up to us. I don't remember if it was in the comments or if it was in the live viewer questions about like how people don't view Nicolas Cage as like a great actor or something like that. And it made me chuckle because I look at him in Long Legs and I'm like, dude, this guy fucking crushes it. Like, what are people talking about? Like, he's such a good actor. Like, I love how intense he gets and how much into his character he really is able to draw from. I mean, his character was just creepy as F, man. I mean, it was just perfect for the role. So yeah, it just continues to solidify for me like why I love Nicolas Cage as much as I do.
Yeah, definitely.
But guys, look, we're going to go ahead and before we get into some live viewer questions, if you are certainly joining us live today, we definitely do appreciate it. Feel free to always hit that like button, show your support for the channel. Feel free to go ahead and share this video, let people know that we're currently live right now. And if you are in the live chat, wherever you're certainly watching us from, feel free to chime in at any time, leave a comment. If you have any thoughts about some of the articles that we certainly discussed today, we certainly would love to have conversations with you. So certainly feel free to go ahead and let your voices be heard in the comment section, and we'll definitely bounce some ideas and conversations off of you. Shout out to some people that did leave some live viewer comments for us today. Enrique Perez certainly coming through as always. I saw the final trailer for Mufasa, The Lion King during D23 Brazil. First off, I didn't even know that there was a D23 Brazil until yesterday when a bunch of trailers and tidbits of information wind up coming out from Marvel Studios. I was actually kind of surprised. Although Brazil is becoming a really big location for conventions these days. They got that CCXP convention that happens once a year. They usually tend to go all out for them, and it seems like they're doing the same thing with D23 having something in Brazil as well. Concept art and animation of the malfunctioning Buzz Lightyears from the upcoming Toy Story 5 has been revealed.
Are they going with that old plot from like the early 2000s? Because they were going to do a straight to video Toy Story sequel before they did Toy Story 2, where Buzz Lightyear ended up getting recalled, so they have to go rescue him. So I'm wondering if they have malfunctioning Buzz Lightyears. It's like, oh, are they actually going with that plot line?
Well, I know they're still sticking with the tech versus magic, so I am kind of curious as to maybe they use that storyline and integrate it into something a little bit more new. Who knows? But definitely looking forward to it. Let's see here. What else we got? Enrique also says, also, what if season 3 finally got a new poster during the Marvel animation panel? And then finally, a new image of the live action Lilo and Stitch was revealed during D23. Very nice. Blossom, what's up, Blossom? She says, hey, Stuart, what's up, you two? Doing pretty good, Blossom. Hope you're doing fantastic as well. Also, he says D23 Brazil has confirmed that singer Shakira is coming back to voice Gazelle from Zootopia 2 with a new look. Is Akita? Do he mean Shakira? I don't know. Is that I don't even know who did the voice of these people in Zootopia. So Ram Jam in the house. Also, what's up, Ram Jam? Good to see you in here, buddy. As always, we really appreciate it, man. Yeah, they had I was trying to see if I could find any other details in regards to what was going on over at D23 Brazil, but maybe some news. Keep your eyes posted, Stuart, if you see anything interesting that came out of that weekend, because we're definitely going to be getting into some trailers here for you guys in just a little bit. But let's go ahead and kick off this show, Stuart, with our first segment of the day. And we're going to get into our honorable mentions segment portion of the show. For those of you who don't know, honorable mentions is pretty much topics that didn't quite make our top 6, didn't quite make the cut to discuss today, but we certainly felt you guys deserve to certainly still know about it. And if you want to go ahead and submit any live viewer questions over right now, you certainly can. Just go over to our YouTube page, click on the community tab, and there is a live viewer question post for you guys. Stuart, by any chance, did you happen to have any honorable mentions this week?
You know what's funny is I did, because I didn't know that it was actually going to be one of our topics, but it's basically going to be about the Mass Effect series. I can't wait to talk about that later on.
Yeah, I'm sure you're pumped.
Oh yeah, very pumped. So I guess I'll just bring up the rumor that I heard about What If Season 3 and how supposedly it's going to feature Storm from specifically X-Men 97, because they're going to have the same voice actress coming back from here to reprise her role. This news was given to us by a new kind of leaker who has so far been pretty good about like the information they have been leaking so far. So there's currently no reason to say it's probably not, or no reason to say it's an absolute lie, but I would say it's no reason to say also that it's 100% confirmed. But I'd say it's a very strong rumor at this point that I am keeping my fingers crossed that is true.
Yeah, I did hear that going around. The idea that the lady that voiced her during the series, the X-Men 97 series, was coming back to voice her. So I hope that that's true, because that would be really awesome to kind of see them finally tackling some MCU X-Men in the MCU in a sort of weird way with the What If series. I think that'd be pretty badass. I do see that they also dropped the Tron Ares trailer over at D23, or at least a tease of it, perhaps. So
I
might be
didn't see that.
Yeah, I didn't see that either, but there might be something there. I don't know how long that convention is even going on for, to be honest with you, but we'll see. Let's see here. Other honorable mentions. That was a good one, though, Stu. Appreciate you bringing that up.
Oh, yeah.
Another honorable mention. We've got some Fallout news for you guys, as we do have an announcement that Macaulay Culkin is actually joining the series for the second series. Yeah, according to Deadline.com, Macaulay Culkin has joined season 2 cast of Fallout in a recurring role, it says. So it looks like he's going to be having a pretty significant part. It says no one is commenting, but Macaulay Culkin is said to be playing a crazy genius type character.
Yes.
So I don't know if
that sounds perfect. I love his sudden comeback that he's kind of made into the acting world. Like I started, like, I feel like it first happened weirdly enough when he did like a crossover, or when he guest starred on an episode of the Angry Video Game Nerd, and then like suddenly it was like after that he was in American Horror Story, and then like a couple of other projects after that. But I love that he's acting again, and he's killing it from everything I've seen him in so far.
Yeah, when I saw this news, I was thinking to myself, what else has he been in recently? Like, has he done any work? And then I saw on his IMDb that he was in American Horror Story, and I was like, oh my goodness, he was in like an actual series. It wasn't like just like a one episode cameo or anything like that. He clearly was in like the entirety of the series, and so now it makes me kind of want to go back and watch it. I used to be a big fan of American Horror Story, and then I eventually fell off a few seasons back. So I wouldn't mind jumping back in just to see like who he played in that movie, so or in that series. So yeah, I'm glad he's getting a comeback.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We also got some Moana 2 news. You know, Stuart, somebody had asked us last week in our live viewer questions if we had to predict who would make more money at the box office. It was Moana 2 or Wicked. I think I said Wicked. I think you said Moana 2. Well, Deadline.com had this report this week that says Moana 2 could eclipse Inside Out 2 at the box office,
Ooh.
according to AMC boss Adam Hurd. Despite the sluggishness of the fall box office after Venom and Joker, Disney's Moana 2 could help fuel this year, along with Wicked and Mufasa, to nearly $9 billion. Apparently, on an earnings call, he says, some people in the know are telling me that Moana could eclipse and outshine even the success of Inside Out 2. And just to give you guys an idea, if I'm not mistaken, I think it went on to make like over $1 billion for sure. It wound up cracking the top 10 total revenue, $1.35 billion. Is what it wind up making. So it definitely was no slouch. And so if anything, maybe Moana 2 could certainly break some records there, Stuart. So you might have nailed it, man. We'll see what the final results are going to be, but that's hella impressive for Moana 2, or at least I'm hoping it'll end up that way.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm surprised too, because like, not that the first one did bad, like it was definitely successful, but I don't think it broke the $1 billion. But then again, I don't think Inside Out 1 did either. So it's
Yeah, I don't think
kind
so
of cool
either.
that these sequels are suddenly like making a lot more.
We also there's also news this week from the Voltron franchise. If you guys missed it, I did go ahead and drop an individual video in regards to this earlier in the week where I talked about the news. But one of the things that we're hearing, Stuart, from the director, believe it or not, as of yesterday, this film is getting ready to shoot in 4 weeks. So filming is getting ready to begin. This is no longer like a dream, ladies and gentlemen. Like film will begin rolling. We will hopefully have some level of behind the scenes set photos and stuff eventually. And he also went ahead and advised to us, Stuart, that he's going to be dealing with a new generation of pilots. So we may not necessarily be sticking with the classic 1980s or even the legendary Defender Netflix series pilots and Keith, Pidge, Lance, Hunk. If anything, it sounds like we may be getting a new generation here. He says he wants to stay true to the lore and vision that is Voltron, but it is certainly a more modernized reimagining of it. So yeah, new pilots and filming begins in 4 weeks, man. So I'm really pumped for it. But you said you hadn't really watched a lot of Voltron, right?
Yeah, but I am curious though, with it being a new generation, does that mean it's going to kind of be treated like a spiritual sequel, kind of to either cartoon?
That's kind of what I'm under the impression of. Like I'm under the impression that they'll stick to the mythology and the lore of everything that kind of came before. If anything, it does make me curious as to even more now about who Henry Cavill is playing in there. It makes me wonder if he is like an older version of the younger pilot. Like, is he Keith, but just not older, more mature sort of thing? Like maybe he's put up his keys to his Voltron lion sort of thing, and like a new enemy has emerged. I really have no idea, but it does put into perspective Henry Cavill's casting a little bit differently for me now. But yeah, so I'm hoping that it holds on to at least what came before, and now it's just giving us a new generation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then last but not least, Andor is back in the news because we
Yeah.
officially have ourselves a release date. According to an article here, it says the release date comes hot on the heels of the convention and Star Wars Celebration. The next convention takes place between April 18th and April 20th, just leaving a 2-day hiatus between the end of the event and the premiere of the new season. So it looks like April 22nd is going to be the big release date for Andor season 2. So mark your calendars, guys. I'm ready for some Tony Gilroy dialogue and storytelling, man.
Definitely. Like, I fucking loved season 1, so I cannot wait for season 2. I still think yeah, season 1 of Andor probably is the best Star Wars we've gotten since Empire.
They got, Andor has probably two of the best monologues, I feel like, in Star Wars in a really long time. I one of the monologues we literally just posted this past week on our Facebook page in regards to the election, where Marva Andor talks about how people have been asleep and they've got to push back against the empire, sort of thing, right? Really creating that resistance and that rebellion to kind of fight back. Really incredible, moving speech. And then there's another speech, I think, from Bill Skarsgård, if I'm not mistaken, in one of the episodes where he talks about like everything that he gave up and the sacrifices that he made. You know what I mean? And listening to both of them just gave me chills. I mean, if that isn't just like peak Star Wars and what like George Lucas, I think, was really aiming for, Tony Gilroy just absolutely nailed it, man. So yeah, I agree with you. I'm ready to get back into season 2. Again, season 2 drops April 22nd next year. And then we got Skeleton Crew that's supposed to be dropping December 3rd, less than a month from now. We'll have our Jedi Council back to talk some more Star Wars, man. So I'm pretty pumped.
Yep, definitely.
But that will do it for our honorable mentions. Enrique says Andor season 2 is now titled Andor: A Star Wars Story. Interesting. Isn't that the tagline that they went with for Rogue One too? Wasn't Rogue One a Star Wars story also, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, Rogue One and Solo. I thought they just kind of like dropped that after Solo.
Yeah, I thought they did too. So it is. I do find it curious as to what made them want to go back to that tagline. But I mean, it works for me. I'm cool with it. If anything, it does make me wonder if that's part of the bigger picture when we get into one of our upcoming topics that we're going to talk about here too, when it comes to Star Wars and the trajectory of the franchise. So we'll see.
I wonder if it also kind of like has something to do with like tying more into Rogue One, like, so it's borrowing part of the title from Rogue One because now we're inching closer to the events of the movie.
Yeah, apparently we're getting 12 episodes. And each 3 episodes, after each 3 episodes, it'll be a time jump of a year. So we're about, they're going to cover a 4-year period. And by the end of the season, it's going to drop us right into Rogue One. So 12 episodes, break them down by 3. Each 3 episodes is going to be a year's lapse. So should be interesting to see how they pull this off from a narrative perspective,
Yeah, definitely.
But
which they kind of did that in season 1. I noticed like every 3 episodes, like it wasn't a time jump, but it would start like a new a mini arc. So I can kind of see how they would do that with season 2.
Yeah, that's the vibes I definitely got too. Yeah, guys, that will do it for our honorable mentions. Stuart, are you ready to get into our main topics today, man?
Always.
We got 6 incredible topics we're going to be talking about for you guys. And as you guys can see at the very top of this, Marvel Studios is in the news, man, because D23 Brazil released some incredible brand new trailers for us. We got first look images at Captain America 4 Brave New World. They not only gave us a brand new poster for us to enjoy, teaser for us to enjoy, but they also gave us a brand new poster as well here, which I think looks incredible. This is something I would absolutely love to have on my wall. But this film drops February 14th. Nice little Valentine's Day present to go ahead and take your ladies to if they're into the MCU. But Captain America Brave New World did drop that. And then we also got ourselves a brand new Thunderbolts trailer as well. I was kind of hoping for a new poster, but I think they probably released this one maybe a few weeks back or maybe a month or so ago, back when they had D23, if I'm not mistaken. But I still love this poster. I still think this poster is an incredible one, to certainly say the least. So Stuart, I will let you choose do you want to go ahead and tackle the Thunderbolts special look, or do you want to dive into Captain America first?
Let's do. I think I got more to say about Captain America, so let's do Thunderbolts first.
Thunderbolts. Okay, let me go ahead and uh, get this situated here. So we'll go ahead and check out the trailer for Thunderbolts itself. I may stop and pause in between just to go ahead and for copyright purposes, you know what I'm saying? Give us an opportunity to talk a little bit about it too.
Oh yeah.
So if you ever want me to stop in between anywhere, just let me know, Stuart. But I may randomly pause it as well. But let's go ahead and get into this trailer again. Thunderbolts special look from D23 Brazil.
We are the Thunderbolts!
Let me know if it's too loud.
Oh,
Nope, perfect sound.
you ever drive through Oklahoma? It's so flat.
You got a convoy approaching fast. Step on it.
Come on, baby.
Okay, a bit faster, please.
Lexi!
Okay, don't worry. Engaging defensive measures.
Oh my god.
Wait, there's no smoke.
Oh my god.
Move the shield!
Is that Bucky? It's a Winter Soldier. That guy is so cool.
Fucking Terminator right there.
Right? Terminator vibes all day.
That's what I talk about!
That's not good.
Yo, first off, the comedic timing in this is fantastic. First off, I the more I see of this cast, the more I think I'm just gonna absolutely love this movie, honestly. But you're right, total Terminator vibes. When he comes through the smoke, he's got the shotgun or his gun ready on his. I mean, the flip of the gun too. I mean, is Terminator-esque as it certainly gets, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of, it's funny. This may sound bad, but it kind of gives me Suicide Squad vibes. And I don't mean the James Gunn version. I mean the 2016 version. But I think with this one, there's a little bit more potential, especially with us actually knowing these characters that we're getting into. So they don't have to worry as much about like trying to set up all the backstory like they did in the original Suicide Squad movie. So I think that it's like, as long as they kind of learn from what didn't work from that movie, I think they want to use that kind of like as kind of a baseline for what they want to do with this film. That actually might be a good idea. But yeah, it's really like you said, the banter is like the main thing that I'm kind of looking forward to this. The comedic timing is great. And then just like, you know, you get these characters that most of them aren't like actually villains. They're just kind of like anti-heroes, but you put them all together. I'm really excited to see what happens. Like, I feel like you're going to have a mixture of people getting along and then people just wanting to like rip each other's throats out, you know?
Yeah, and I think I do think that the comparison to Suicide Squad is fair, whether that be the original or even the James Gunn one. But to the benefit of Marvel Studios here, like you mentioned, I think because we know these characters, they have a past. We've had some sort of emotional connection to some of these characters for sure. We've seen their journey before, so we know the situations that they find themselves in. It's not like we're being introduced to just a brand new group of misfits and having to kind of learn along the way. So I do think that there's a weightiness and an emotional connection that I think will just heighten this movie for us. And then they've got some incredible writers on board. If you were fans of the Beef Netflix series or The Bear, also, they have some really talented writers on board here. And I think just from some of the quick glimpses that we've seen, I think they might be onto something here. But let's go ahead and continue this trailer.
How crazy is it to think of all the monumental fights that happened exactly here where you're standing? I mean, the place wasn't cheap, but it's got good optics.
That's got to be Avengers Mansion then. right? I think
Oh,
that kind of
definitely.
solidifies it when she says they had a lot of epic battles here. It's got to be Avengers Mansion.
I think that's the same bar that like Tony Stark offered Loki a drink at, if I'm not
Maybe.
mistaken.
Yeah.
Also the same bar where he had Natasha Romanoff and Hulk having their like kind of moment during Avengers 2.
Yes, that looks exactly the same to me.
Look at you. You are all so adorable.
Eat shit, Valentina.
Make up your mind.
The assignment is. Oh, wait, hang on. Assignment is complete.
Decide to walk with
What kind of super serum did you get?
I don't know, regular. Hydra.
Hydra. Oh, fancy.
Who is this old Santa?
The Red Guardian.
What?
Everyone here has done bad things. Shadow ops. Contract kills.
And you,
Ooh.
former Red Room assassin. God,
You know, I will say when it comes to Ghost and Taskmaster, my two like least favorite people in the group so far, just because of like I have not cared how they've been utilized in the MCU. So I'm really hoping and keeping my fingers crossed that they really heighten these characters a little bit more and take them up a notch. The Ghost costume looks sick to me. I absolutely love her costume. And the Taskmaster one is really growing on me. The fact that she has the sword and you can clearly see she's got some level of a shield in here. I'm hoping it definitely feels a little bit more comic accurate for sure. But just from a character perspective, I really hope that they heighten them a little bit more from where we've last seen them.
I am curious how Ghost gets involved because like last we saw her in Ant-Man 2, it kind of seemed like she was just kind of like hanging out with the crew of the Ant-Man cast, even though we didn't see her in the third movie. So I am curious what she's been up to from the events of Ant-Man 2 to this movie.
That one, yeah, me too. Let's see if they fill in those blanks, but let's go ahead and continue.
and you, former Red Room assassin. God only knows the blood on your hands.
Pretty ludicrous coming from the dime store Captain America.
Well, have you know, is actually the official Captain America. So
Yeah, for like 2 seconds.
Oh, that's dope.
It's getting so tense in here.
Who are you?
I'm Bob.
So there was a moment when he first appeared, something about his smile and just like his way of speaking. I thought it was James McAvoy for a brief moment. So when I was watching this trailer, like I'm on my phone and I see him appear, I'm like, what? Because I thought for a minute Xavier, but and then when I heard the name Bob, my immediate next thought was, wait, Hydra Bob, as in like Deadpool Hydra Bob.
Yeah, man, I love the they've really been keeping Bob a secret for sure. They have not really shown too much. I feel like we see Bob in like the same 2 clips over and over again in this trailer, so they're definitely keeping Bob's identity a secret for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We're just drifting. And we don't have purpose. We can't escape the past.
So you can either do something about it now or live with it forever.
So what, do we all just punch and shoot?
we are the Thunderbolts.
Can't call ourselves that.
Thank God.
The Thunderbolts. It's a cool name.
Man, can I make a prediction, Stuart?
Please do.
I have a feeling Thunderbolts is going to be the best MCU movie of the year in 2025. I mean, we got Captain America 4, we got Thunderbolts, and we got Fantastic Four. And that's saying a lot because I do think Fantastic Four is going to be a really great movie. But there is just something about the cast that they wind up bringing in, and David Harbour, Florence Pugh, which already have a great on-screen chemistry from Black Widow, despite how some people might feel about the movie itself. Sebastian Stan in just the attachment that so many fans have to him for playing Bucky for such a long time, and just his journey in general. And a little bit of John Walker too. Like, they make fun of him of being like the dime the dime store Captain America. But there's a level of like things that all these characters have to kind of prove to themselves, right, and find the place for themselves. And so I do think that they are going to tap into something really emotional that I think a lot of us will really kind of get behind, in regards to everybody's motives and stuff, maybe forming some sentiments of a little bit of a family here, and some great humor, I think, and great dialogue. So I do think this could be something really special for the MCU, and I hope it's really successful because I really like all these characters, honestly.
Same. So the two things I was like kind of curious about too watching this is why Yelena, when she sees Valentina, she doesn't like shoot her on sight, because you think she'd be really pissed off at the fact that she lied to her about like Black Widow being killed by Hawkeye, and so like after finding out that that was all like a lie, I'm curious how they're gonna address that. The other thing too is that yes, I think the character I'm most excited for is John Walker, because I really enjoyed his character arc in Captain America and the Winter Soldier, because like he wasn't like a bad guy per se, but like, he definitely, it seemed like he was doing like what he was doing for the wrong reasons. Like it was more that he felt like he needed to prove himself to, because he, just like, it felt like it wasn't necessarily about helping people. It was more about like proving himself to the world and showing like that he could be just as cool as Steve Rogers. So it's like towards the end of it though, right when it seemed like he was starting to realize, oh hey, maybe I'm going down the wrong path, then suddenly you have Valentina going, oh no, you're doing just fine, don't worry about it. So I am really curious now to see where his character goes in this movie, if he's still going to kind of convince himself that no, I'm good, I'm the new Captain America, people love me, or if he's actually going to take a real look at himself in the mirror, because again, I didn't think he was like a bad person per se. I just think he just like let it all go to his head, and then when he took the serum, that's what really messed with him, because as the I can't remember his name, the villain from Civil War says, as he says, like not everyone is Steve Rogers, so not everyone can have that kind of power without letting it go to their head. So yeah, I think his is the most the one I'm the most excited for.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah, because the pressure of everything. I mean, imagine having to be the next Captain America, man. I'm sure he was feeling a ton of pressure to the point of like some sort of psychological snap with the serum and stuff. Also on top of that, so yeah, I am kind of curious to see where he finds his life and his perspective of who he is, certainly as a character. So yeah, we'll see, man. But I do think Thunderbolts is going to be something special. We did have a comment. Enrique says, did a new poster for Thunderbolts reveal at D23? I didn't see any. I saw one for Captain America. I tried to look up one also for Thunderbolts, but I didn't see a brand new poster. Maybe I'll jump onto X real quick and see if they had released anything media wise, but I don't believe I saw a new poster, which is a little bit of a bummer. But again, I like the poster that we wind up recently getting. So if anything, I think that's probably the official poster that this one's probably going to be the last official poster that we wind up getting. Maybe there's another one out there, who knows. But with Thunderbolt trailer out of the way, it's time to get into Captain America 4, Brave New World. We got ourselves a brand new official trailer this time around. Again, this movie winds up releasing in February 14th, so this is going to be really our next MCU movie. So let me go ahead and bring that up here also. If you guys haven't had the opportunity to check it out, we'll check it out together. Same thing, I may pause in between. If you need me to pause, let me know, Stuart. But let's go ahead and dive into this one.
You asked for me. Here I am. You want to help me? Is there anything you remember?
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, Thaddeus Ross.
Whatever this is, Cap, be careful. What do we know?
There were 5 shooters. This was a coordinated terrorist attack, sir.
I was a wartime general. Now I'm a wartime president.
Your inner circle's been compromised. Let me fix it.
Watch yourself. You're not Steve Rogers.
You're right. I'm not. Wait for it. We're on the brink of war. I can't trust anyone.
It's interesting. The panels that they add to this, it kind of reminds me of the 2003 Hulk movie. How they constantly like kind of have like the lines coming to divide everything, and then like show different kind of like it's kind of like you're watching a moving comic book. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they did that for Incredible Hulk.
Not Incredible Hulk, but Hulk 2003. I think it was just called.
Oh, the first one they did that.
Yeah.
You know, there is an art into putting together a trailer, you know, and I'm fascinated by some of the choices that they had in doing this. I think this is a great shot here in regards to talking about like the division of things. I do wonder if they do that to emphasize the idea of there being like a division amongst whether that be the country or people inside the inner circle, or if this is just to kind of give you two different perspectives. I'm not quite sure, but I mean, they talk about this supposed to really get back to the roots of like Captain America Winter Soldier. This definitely feels like a spy espionage thriller, just like brink of war type of trajectory that we might be going when it comes to the MCU. The choice of music is fascinating too, because it just adds like this really eerie sort of vibe to it, in the sense of like you can't really trust what you're seeing or who's around you. I don't know how to I don't know how to explain it, but I get some really odd vibes from this trailer. Not so much bad, but like there's an uncomfortable something uncomfortable about the trailer. I don't know what it is that I get from it, but maybe I'm tripping, Stuart. But let's let me rewind just a little bit and then we'll get back into it. First off, I love this shot of him landing. And then sort of the sonic boom or like the shock wave coming through following right behind him. I thought that was actually pretty cool.
That was. I actually really like this new updated costume. I thought it looked great in Falcon the Winter Soldier, but this just looks like the perfect polish to it, you know?
Yeah, he didn't. Did he have this helmet?
Oh, no, definitely
no,
not.
he didn't, right? So yeah, this must be just clearly when he's hitting his top speeds or something, but
Wait for it.
so he's clearly going to have a couple costume changes in here for sure, at least 2.
We're on the brink of war. I can't trust anyone. Nothing about this feels right.
Captain America. You ever ask yourself who's playing who?
That's cool. That's pretty cool. I am fascinated by this shot. If I can find it again, I might have to pause.
Captain America.
Reset Ross, reset America. I'm trying to see what all is in here. Is this the Make America Great Again sort of reset America mentality? Reset Ross. It definitely makes me feel like watching this trailer that Ross really does not have any idea what is happening to him. Are you under that impression?
I'm under the impression of either that or that he's just really good at playing dumb. But I'm also wondering, Reset Ross, if that means like if they're referring more to the fact that he used to be more let's just say like trigger happy, I guess, in 2008 during the events of the Incredible Hulk, and that's what they're trying to get him back to, is trying to get him back to being you know, basically a kind of power hungry in a way or something. I don't know. Like
Maybe he does
yeah.
say, he does say in the trailer, like, I was a wartime general. Now I find myself as a wartime president. He sounds like it's kind of some level of reluctancy to be that type of president. So I don't know. Maybe it's something that maybe he's changed, and now it's like, now we need that war hawk sort of General Ross back, to move our plans forward, sort of thing.
Yeah.
You ever ask yourself who's playing who?
Someone's been pulling the strings on everything.
You're under arrest.
I don't want a variable out there that I can't control. Captain America caught without his wings.
You like to play dress up and blindly execute the state's orders.
Don't say I didn't warn you.
What if this is a trap? You don't even know what this is.
Damn, he looks.
Where were they red?
What do you think, Stuart?
I love the look of Red Hulk. Also, I like how she says, since when were they red, as in like, kind of acknowledging the events of She-Hulk, whether or not fans want to admit that show happened or not.
They I will say I do love what he looks like in here. I think we get another shot of him too, but this look of him coming through the fire and the destruction looks incredible. I mean, it looks like Harrison Ford too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's so gnarly, man. That's so gnarly. But some great action sequences in here too. I mean, we even get to see Harrison Ford punching somebody also, which is like classic indie to me right here. Just classic indie move right here.
You like to play dress up and blindly execute the state's orders.
Don't say I didn't warn you.
What if this is a trap? You don't even know what this is.
Since when were they red?
You want me? Come and get me!
Damn. Sick.
Do not mess with those freaking wings. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's deadly, man. Wow. Oh, that was a great shot too. Do you see what I mean when I say when I pick up on the music towards the end? It's like some plucking of strings. I don't know what instrument that is, but it just got like really horror vibes to it, like a horror element to it that I wasn't expecting to kind of hear in here. But it is definitely one of those things where there's something going on behind the scenes. Clearly, the leader, it seems as though, was kind of pulling the strings. There's a line in here that I think is delivered by the leader where he says something along the lines of like, you dress up in this costume and you just go out there and you just do what sort of like the government tells you to do, sort of thing, without even asking questions or understanding like what's truly going on underneath it all, sort of thing. And so it definitely seems like there's somebody behind the scenes that's trying to cause some division, that's trying to have some secret plots kind of created, or whatever the case may be. So it just feels very much like a who can you trust and who can't you trust. And I don't know if it's anything that'll become completely obvious until maybe like the middle or end of this movie, sort of thing. And so I'm really fascinated. Like, I'm really unsure about this film, Stuart, just because of some of the things that I've heard from the screen testing. But every time that I see a trailer, I'm like, this really fascinates me. I just hope that all the moving pieces and parts that they seem to have in here kind of really come together to make it work. You know what I mean? Like, there's a level of trepidation, but there's a level of like, ooh, like this looks really good and enticing to me.
I think, yeah, you kind of nailed it earlier before we started the trailer when you brought up that they were saying that this is going back to the Captain America roots with Winter Soldier. Because that's, I get the vibe of Winter Soldier, but yeah, the eerie music makes me think that whatever conspiracy is going on this time, it could be something like either worse than what happened in Captain America Winter Soldier, which is saying a lot because, drones that just decide to kill people because they might be guilty of something sometime in the future is already pretty dark. So I'm curious, like, what it is going to be, what this big conspiracy is going to be within this movie that, necessitates that kind of eerie music to play during its trailer. But yeah, like, I'm also curious with Anthony Mackie's Captain America, like taking orders from the government, because that was something that, like, even Steve Rogers kind of struggled with, like, during Winter Soldier 2, was, the beginning part, wanting to do the right thing, but not knowing, like, if the people that he's listening to actually know what the right thing is, hence him constantly questioning Nick Fury. And it almost feels like Harrison Ford's role is kind of similar to Nick Fury's role in the sense that he's kind of like the guy that thinks he knows what's right and what's wrong, and so you'll have Anthony Mackie's Captain America like questioning him every step of the way, with Harrison Ford trying to be like, what do you know? You're not Steve Rogers. Which okay, so I gotta point something out that I thought was funny. So the first time we see that in the trailer, it's like, Anthony Mackie's just like, you're right, I'm not. Like, he's about to, like, make a point afterwards. In this version, I don't know why it's like, if it's just the way it's edited, but it's almost like his reply is no shit. It almost feels like a completely different kind of reply. It's like, yeah, did you actually have the two of us confused?
Yeah, I wonder if it's because of what they're talking about. Like, if it let me see. Well, first off, I thought this shot was pretty interesting, where you see Anthony Mackie on one side smiling, and then as he cuts into the next frame over, like, it's a completely different scene. Like, it's just so smooth. Let's play this out, and then while we play it, let's also hear the dialogue that leads into Harrison Ford saying, "You're not Steve Rogers."
President.
Your inner circle's been compromised. Let me fix it.
Watch yourself. You're not Steve Rogers.
You're right. I'm not.
It almost, like, when he says watch yourself, like, you're not Steve Rogers, it does make me think, like, if he's implying that he may not have as easy access to things as he wants to, because he's not Steve Rogers, because he's not a white man. Like, and he's like, you're right, like, I'm not. Like, there's clearly a difference between me and Steve, right? That things might be a little bit harder for Sam Wilson to have to navigate and get down to the truth, just because of who he is, from that perspective. And I think the idea of Ross telling him that it's like, it's going to be tougher for you than it probably would have been for Steve, sort of thing. So I don't know, but that's kind of where I kind of picked up or felt it was different this time around compared to when we first watched it. But I thought that transition of Sam Wilson going from one shot right into the other one, I thought was pretty smooth.
That was a good shot. But yeah, actually, kind of like rewatching it, I think I know what you mean. Like, it feels like the first time in the first trailer, when he says it, it feels like it's him, like, as the president saying, oh, I don't trust you because you're not Steve Rogers. But here, yeah, you're kind of right. It almost feels like less of him just kind of like saying, oh, I don't like you because you're not Steve Rogers, and more of him being like, yeah, like you said, yeah, people may not be as trusting towards you. You may not have the easy access, or, that, automatic, like, I don't know, warm feeling that Steve Rogers gave everyone, because like you said, not only because he's a white man, but also because of, like, his history, the fact that he was like the poster boy. He was like the Uncle Sam for during World War II, So it's like so Anthony Mackie, not only being a person of color, but also not having that, like, huge legacy behind him, definitely is more of an uphill battle than it would have been for Steve Rogers.
Yeah, I think that's what they're kind of hinting at here too. But yeah, I'm intrigued. I mean, I look at the trailer. I personally like the trailer. It hit me different. It gave me vibes of, like, this is really uncomfortable. Like, I don't know if I could trust almost anybody on this screen. Who's telling the truth? Who really knows the truth, right? Because it does seem like even Ross himself is is not quite sure what's kind of going on around him, sort of thing. And so just that idea of this shadow figure really kind of pulling the strings to some bigger conspiracy theory level event sort of thing, just it gives off some vibes of uncomfortability for sure. So I'm fascinated to find out what this movie is, and the idea of Sam Wilson's Captain America facing off against the Red Hulk in here, I gotta think that's the big climactic battle. But it does make me wonder, where does like Red Hulk go from here? Is he in any other movies? How will he be utilized going forward? Is this just a one-off for him? I really have no idea, but I feel like this movie is hiding a lot of things that we have not seen played itself out as of yet. So we'll see what this film looks like come February, man.
Definitely.
Any last thoughts on the trailer?
Last thought. I'm very curious if the leader is a villain or if he actually is trying to be helpful when he tells when he's like calling Captain America and telling him like not to trust people. I think he's like the one that I'm the most curious about in this movie. Like, what is his overall like goal? Why is he trying to quote unquote help Captain America? Is that what he's doing?
Yeah, I could tell. I could definitely tell that for sure. Blossom says that trailer, geez, oh Molly. Something tells me that this movie is going to be pretty dang intense to the maximo. Yeah, that's definitely the vibes that I'm getting for sure too, Blossom. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. What did you guys think about both trailers for Thunderbolts and Captain America 4? Is there one that stood out to you more than the other? Do you have some questions, concerns? Are you kind of pumped for any of these? I definitely would love to know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. So let your thoughts be heard. Yeah, we'll definitely continue to talk about this as the week progresses. So from that, Stuart, we will move on to our next topic here. As we transition from the MCU, this time we're going to get into some Star Wars talk. As we got some big news here this week, and I do want to preface this first to Stuart by saying, when this information dropped, this is not an announcement from Lucasfilm officially. Like, Disney didn't come out with a press release. They did not officially announce this. This is coming from the sources from Deadline. And we also have another article here that will highlight from the insider source, Jeff Schneider himself. So these are talking about their sources inside finding out this information. So this is not an official confirmation from Lucasfilm or Disney yet. So let's understand that first. I think Lucasfilm, if anything, right now is pretty hush hush on some of the announcements that they want to make based off of just the track record that they've had as of late. And they do have a Star Wars celebration that's going to be happening next year also. So maybe they're keeping all their secrets kind of close to the vest. But this week, Stuart, as we await Skeleton Crew, the upcoming Star Wars television series, Star Wars has been rather successful when it comes to television series. Some hits, some misses, some kind of in between for some people. But one of the things that Star Wars is really known for is being on the big screen. It's been a minute since we've had ourselves a movie. If there is any movie that we know officially is at least being made and getting ready to go into post-production, it's the Mandalorian and Grogu film. Outside of that, though, we don't really know what the other projects, how far along they're certainly coming. The last update that we had for the Daisy Ridley film was that the script or the writer wind up departing. Stephen Knight from Peaky Blinders departed after making several script rewrites, only for Lucasfilm to maybe want to go in a different direction. There were some pieces of information that the James Mangold Dawn of the Jedi film may go into production as early as early next year. So we potentially could look forward to that. But we haven't really heard too much from the Dave Filoni movie, as if anything, Dave Filoni is probably working with Jon Favreau to bring The Mandalorian and Grogu to life, along with the upcoming Ahsoka Season 2 series. So as far as concrete evidence of when we're going to get ourselves a new Star Wars movie, I couldn't tell you. But we did get some new information that I think has certainly ruffled the feathers of some Star Wars fans along with the internet and got people talking, for good, bad, or worse. Who knows? But I wanted to go ahead and bring this news to you because according to Deadline.com, Stuart, apparently we have a Star Wars trilogy getting ready to head our way. Whether this gets to the light of day, who certainly knows? But there are sources talking about the idea that we will be having a Star Wars trilogy helmed by none other than Simon Kinberg himself. You may know him from his work in past the X-Men franchises. And he also was a part of the Star Wars Rebels animated series as well, working very closely with Dave Filoni as an executive producer and at times even writer on Star Wars Rebels. But according to Deadline, it's a Star Wars trilogy deal. Lucasfilm taps Simon Kinberg to write and produce. So it looks as though we may be getting ourselves a brand new trilogy here, Stuart. Let's go ahead and dive into this article and see exactly what it says. We'll read the article, Stuart, and then if anything, we'll give our thoughts on it. And then after we give our thoughts, we'll dive into Jeff Schneider and see what some of his sources are telling him behind the scenes and see if he can't clarify some things for us. So let's go ahead and dive into here. It says exclusive. Lucasfilm has closed a deal with Simon Kinberg to develop a trilogy of Star Wars films. Kinberg will write the trio and produce them with Lucasfilm chief Kathleen Kennedy. I heard this will comprise episodes 10 through 12 of the Skywalker saga that began with George Lucas's 1977 first film, which along with Steven Spielberg's Jaws reshaped the global blockbuster game. Insiders dispute my intel that Kinberg will continue that storyline, saying this instead will begin a new saga and sit alongside percolating Star Wars projects with James Mangold, Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, and Donald Glover. I don't know why they put Taika Waititi in there. I don't think his thing is doing anything. But it says, as usual, Lucasfilm and Disney are not commenting. So just to clarify, the source that they heard, or source of information they heard, says this was going to be in episodes 10, 11, and 12 of the Skywalker saga, whereas others are saying that Kinberg will not be continuing the Star Wars saga story. So this still could be episodes 10, 11, and 12, but just maybe not focusing on the Skywalker saga. It says Kinberg previously worked with Lucasfilm and co-creating with Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck the Emmy-nominated animated series Star Wars Rebels that ran for 4 seasons from 2014 to 2018. He was also a consultant on episode 7, The Force Awakens, that revived the franchise in 2005. He's also been heavily involved in other franchises as writer and producer. That includes a decade spent on the X-Men films and the Logan spinoff film that starred Hugh Jackman and was directed by James Mangold. He also produced the first 2 Deadpool movies and executive produced Deadpool and Wolverine. He produced Ridley Scott's The Martian and has scripted such films as Mr. and Mrs. Smith and co-wrote the film that launched the Sherlock Holmes franchise with Robert Downey Jr. It says, in short, he's comfortable in the franchise sphere, which is certainly true. It does talk about some of his upcoming work as well. But yeah, Simon Kinberg is set to go ahead and write, along with executive produce, a new Star Wars trilogy. Stuart, I would not mind getting your thoughts first on this. How are you feeling about this particular news if it comes to fruition?
I don't know how to feel about it because I'm looking currently at his IMDb and oh wait, no, never mind. Okay. For a brief moment I couldn't find like any writing credit under him, only producing credit, but now I can see. Okay. So man, he is so he's helped write some really good and some terrible movies too, because you know, on the one hand, like you even mentioned, he did Star Wars Rebels, which I really enjoyed that show. You know, wasn't perfect, but it was good for what it was. And then he also did probably one of my favorite X-Men movies, not counting Wolverine, but also one of the worst X-Men movies because he did Days of Future Past, which I fucking love that movie. But he also did Dark Phoenix. So it's like, you know, he did Sherlock Holmes, which was a good movie, you know, but then He also did X-Men Last Stand. So I guess for me, it's kind of a mixed bag. I could see if he ends up being the writer of this trilogy, I could honestly see it going either way. So I would say that this doesn't hype me, but this doesn't this isn't like something that I'm angry about. It's just something that I don't really have too much of a strong opinion on until I see a little bit more of it.
Yeah, I will say I totally get you, because there are some great movies that I'm like, oh wow, like he wrote that, or he was part of the screenplay for that. I might have to bring up his IMDb page also. But there are like some movies that were just complete trash, that were just absolutely terrible movies that he wind up writing. And then you look at some of his other films and you're like, oh my God, like he wrote that too? Like that's an incredible film. Like I absolutely love it. So I feel like with Simon Kinberg, it truly is just a flip of the coin. Like, what are you going to get on any sort of given day? I think from a producing standpoint, I think he's a marvelous producer. I do think that from a producing standpoint, Simon Kinberg right now is probably up there, top 5, top 10 producers of our modern day in regards to just some of the franchises that he's been attached to. And help sort of shepherd in sort of thing. So I think from a producing standpoint, I'm absolutely okay with this. The idea of him being a writer on it, that's where I start getting kind of really cold feet, because I just don't know what I'm going to get with him. To be fair to Simon Kinberg, I will say this. Like you, I love Star Wars Rebels. It's one of my favorite animated series right after the Clone Wars. I think his knowledge of Star Wars, I think his knowledge of the world sort of really shines through. It kind of makes me even want to go back and watch some of um the Simon Kinberg written episodes that he did for Star Wars Rebels, because I think some of those were probably pretty good as well. So it is one of those things too where I do wonder what his level of comfortability is when it comes to working with Lucasfilm and working in this sandbox. You know, does he get this franchise a little bit more than he does, say, something like X-Men or whatever other projects that he certainly might have worked on as well? And because of the fact that he did such a great job when it comes to Star Wars Rebels, there is a part of me that wants to be like, okay, like maybe at least when it comes to Star Wars, he might be in a good mindset. Maybe he can certainly go ahead and pull this off. And I do think that there is something important too to understanding that continuity matters. And I think him being able to write all 3 of these movies, to at least have some level of connective tissue, understand the direction in which the story that he wants to take it, instead of, everybody have their own point of view of like, you get a movie and you get a movie and you get a movie. Now try and make something happen. I do think it is to Kinberg's benefit that he gets to write all 3. Now, whether or not he brings some people in to help as co-writers for some of the other movies, that's certainly yet to be determined. But his work on Star Wars Rebels and the idea that he will be the writer for all 3 so he can navigate the vision of it, um, wants me to be hopeful. But at the end of the day, I think I'm always going to be trepidatious because, bro, your track record has not been great. It has not been great. It's like gold medal, bronze, didn't even medal, didn't even get on the podium. So you never know what you're going to get. But my hope here is that, if anything, like I will, and let me just say this too. You had the Peaky Blinders writer. You've had amazing writers come and go. You had Rian Johnson, despite even how people loved or hated The Last Jedi. Rian Johnson is a very accomplished writer. I mean, check out Brick, Looper. Check out his Knives Out stuff, right? Like really high talented writers have come through the doors of Lucasfilm. And it's like we had all that talent and you guys go with Simon Kinberg to give us like it's just odd to me. It is just odd to me. But again, maybe it's that level of, hey, we know what Simon Kinberg's capable of. We've worked with him before. He's done some great things when it comes to animation. Maybe he truly does just fit in this world significantly better than any of his other projects and other franchises that he's kind of been attached to. So that's where my hope certainly comes from. But I am very much just taking out a coin and flipping it and just seeing what we're going to get on any given day. So we'll see how this turns out. It does make me beg the question as to what happens with all the other films. Was this not part of the Daisy Ridley film that she was working on? Was that going to be its own individual film, or are you now bringing this guy in because the Daisy Ridley movie that you had didn't work out and the Peaky Blinders guy wind up leaving? It just seems like there's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes, and Lucasfilm hasn't really come out to kind of clarify anything for us at this point. And so we're really left to just try and kind of figure things out on our own and move through all the rubble that is the wreckage of Star Wars movie announcements right now. But how are you feeling though, Stuart, about it?
You brought up something at the very beginning that I, completely agree with. Continuity with Star Wars matters, and you're bringing in a writer who basically gives zero shit about continuity when you look at the X-Men movies. Even if I want to give them the excuse of time travel, and that's why things don't line up the way they should between the original X-Men trilogy and the new stuff. That still doesn't explain how you give the Phoenix two completely different origin stories in the new timeline. It doesn't explain like all the other plot holes that you then create like within your new timeline because you don't care about continuity for any of the movies that have come before. And that's something that you've seen how fucking insane fans got when Ki-Adi-Mundi's age was changed in The Acolyte, despite the fact that his age was never canon to begin with, You see them flipping out about something as small as that, and now you're giving a guy who doesn't care about continuity, like creative control to write a trilogy. Yeah, the more I think about this, the more I'm leaning towards, I don't think this is the wisest idea. You also bring up the great point of all the other talented writers you've had before, and it's weird that this is the best that they can come up with. So, the more I think about it, the more I think if this is real, I don't think I'm looking forward to this new trilogy. And if it is real too, the other thing is undoubtedly my prediction is going to come true. And that prediction, of course, is that the Star Wars sequels, specifically episodes 7, 8, and 9, are going to be praised when this new trilogy comes out, the same way the prequels were praised when the sequel trilogy came out.
Oh man, Stuart, I don't know what's going on here. I totally agree with you. If anything, when I heard this news, I was not happy. I definitely wasn't jumping through hoops, because of just just the randomness of like some of Simon Kinberg's performances for sure. So I really don't know what we're gonna get. Marcelino says, I see a lot of people hoping this is fake, all because they don't want Simon Kinberg attached. He's responsible for some of the worst X-Men movies. But to be fair, he is also responsible for some of the best X-Men movies also, right? So I do want to give credit where credit is certainly due, but I do think the bad ones certainly stick around with us longer than the good ones do. And I think that's what people certainly gravitate towards. And look, that's exactly what I gravitated towards, right? Like there's a part of me that's trying to be hopeful, but I'm not naive either. Like I do understand that going into this could be an absolute debacle, and certainly not my first choice, not my second choice, and definitely not my third choice. He might be like 7 or 8, maybe even 9 or 10. But we'll see. If anything, again, this does make me kind of want to go back and see the Simon Kinberg work for Star Wars Rebels and just see like maybe his bread and butter is Star Wars. Maybe he can write extremely well, but I will say, if anything, remember, writing for animation is completely different than it is writing for live action. And maybe he is more comfortable in the animation realm, and maybe he's tried to bring that level of writing to live action, and maybe it just doesn't work all the time. We've kind of seen that with Dave Filoni, right? Dave Filoni has had to kind of, have some training wheels in regards to going from animation into the live action realm, because it is significantly different, whether that be writing or directing for it. So we'll see. I really don't know what's going to happen here. If anything, I would assume come Star Wars Celebration, Disney will give us some level of announcements. But I also do want to highlight what Jeff Schneider had to say. He does give some insight from some of the things that he's hearing as to whether or not this is an episode 10, 11, 12. Is this part of the Skywalker saga? Let's go ahead and dive into this a little bit. Star Wars, what I'm hearing about Simon Kinberg's trilogy and what it may mean for the rest of the franchise. So this is going to give us a really good in-depth as to what he's hearing behind the scenes. Let's see here. To episode or not to episode? That is the question. On Thursday, Hollywood started to emerge from its collective post-election hangover with a bombshell. Simon Kinberg will write and produce a new Star Wars trilogy. Deadline's Mike Fleming broke the news, writing that a new trilogy would be episodes 10 through 12 of the Skywalker saga. Deadline's own insider disputes the trade's intel, saying that the trilogy would launch a new saga. THR's Boris Kitt backed up those insiders, saying that the Kinberg trilogy won't be episodes 10 through 12, and that'll be a new story focused on new characters, representing a new path forward for the franchise and not have it be a continuation. The clever reporter left himself an out, however, writing, "That doesn't mean that some characters could not or would not pop up." So you got Fleming's in one corner and Boris in another, saying diametrically opposing things, more or less. Based on what I'm hearing, I'm inclined to side with Deadline on this one, as I'm willing to bet that these three films will be positioned as episodes 10, 11, and 12. When Boris writes that this trilogy will explore a new story focused on new characters, what else were you expecting? Lucasfilm to tell the same story with the same characters? Of course, Kinberg's trilogy will feature a new story and a bunch of new characters, but Boris left himself that out for a reason. The reason? I suspect it's because I'm hearing that Daisy Ridley will come back for these new Star Wars trilogy movies, and her Rey will be positioned sort of as the Obi-Wan of the new trilogy. What that means for Charmin Obaid-Chinoy's movie is unclear. Many Star Wars skeptics assume that the project is dead, but it's my understanding that Lucasfilm recently hired a new writer to replace Stephen Knight, and I just haven't been able to ascertain their identity yet. Would Lucasfilm have paid a new writer if it had no plans to make Obaid-Chinoy's movie, knowing full well by now that Kinberg would be writing a new trilogy? You'd think not, but honestly, who knows? There are a lot of big, fragile egos in play here. It says Obaid-Chinoy's movie is rumored to find Daisy Ridley's training a new generation of Jedi warriors, and if my source is accurate, then it sounds like she'd serve a similar function in Kinberg's trilogy. Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan served as a mentor to Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker before guiding him as a Force ghost. I think, which makes me wonder if Obaid movies Chinoy will ultimately come to fruition. The optics certainly wouldn't be good if Lucasfilm pulled the plug on Obaid-Chinoy's project at this point, but you also have to wonder how many movies we need Ridley's Rey, an older version of whom is also rumored to be a part of Sean Levy's vision for his Star Wars movie. Regardless of whether or not Obaid-Chinoy's movie ultimately gets made, it's being developed as a standalone spin-off of the Skywalker saga, not one of the franchise's official episodes. Yet it's the episodes that audiences have flocked to see in theaters, and I imagine it's the episodes in which Lucasfilm will eventually return. Personally, I doubt that Kinberg will wind up directing a Star Wars movie, but I do wonder if Lucasfilm will have trouble filling the gig, given the company's track record when it comes to the franchise, which some consider to be a bigger headache than it's worth. And, I will say the fact that he says we don't know, they might have some trouble filling in the gig. It also makes me wonder too, Stuart, right? Like we just said, they've gone through so many incredible writers and they landed on Simon Kinberg. Like maybe it's the idea of like, maybe big writers don't even want to take a Star Wars project anymore.
Yeah, at this point, I don't doubt it. There was this whole thing where the writer for Thor 2, or maybe it was the director, he was talking about how like some directors know how to work with studio mandates, others don't. And the director of Thor 2, admitted that like, okay, I'm one of those people that cannot work with studio mandates, whereas you have people like James Gunn who can work with studio mandates and like can actually make something incredible out of those studio mandates. Um and I guess like, when it comes to the Star Wars franchise, whatever these studio mandates are, I think I'm just curious to see what it is about them that's driving all of these writers and directors away, because on paper, like that feels like that should be everyone's like main goal, is to be able to work on a Star Wars project. Like that should be the ultimate win. But with how many people keep turning it away, I'm just kind of like, what is Disney constantly demanding of them that like, constantly causes like, talented writers to not want to go anywhere near Star Wars? What are they constantly like looking for in these projects, in these movies specifically? Because for the shows, it seems like they're not having as big of an issue, but for the movies, like just something about it. But like my thoughts on if they decide to take the story this way, I think I have nothing against them continuing the story like after the trilogy. I just hope we don't get any more of the Empire or the First Order, because I think at that point, you've kind of made it clear that they're done. They're not really much of a threat anymore. So I hope we kind of move on from that. We get something more unique, more akin to the Force, something along those lines. Or maybe even the Ujan Vong. I always say their names wrong, but you know what I mean. Like the creatures that are like immune to the Force. Like that would be pretty cool if we got them in an upcoming Star Wars project. And yeah, with Rey's story continuing, I think that's a good idea. I think that like I always hated the fact that it took until the very last scene for her to like actually be a real Jedi, whereas Luke was kind of like mostly fully developed by the time we got to Return of the Jedi. I always didn't like that we never got to see Rey as a Jedi, pretty much. But that's something that could definitely be rectified if they decide to bring her back and have her training the next generation of Jedi. I think that would be something really cool to see. So I see potential in this, but Disney needs to step up, and by step up, I mean they need to back off just a little bit. I think like the important things that Disney should be like mandating in terms of Star Wars projects going forward is yes, I do think that continuity is very important for the Star Wars franchise, and that should be the main thing that they mandate. And then of course I think that like as it should never be something that's disrespectful to what came before, even if it's a Star Wars project that fans didn't like per se. Like I think the way they kind of tackled The Last Jedi in Rise of Skywalker was pretty immature of Disney. So I don't want to see them do something like that again. But as for where the story could go, I do see a lot of potential. So it's like, if it wasn't for every bit of information that we've gotten before that has been a new Star Wars project in development, nope, never mind, this director, this writer left, all that kind of stuff, I think I would be a lot more hyped up for this. But with knowing how these projects keep falling through, I have finally just become numb to Star Wars movie news. TV news is different, because again, we actually get stuff from Star Wars TV, but when it comes to Star Wars movie news, it's like, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, and it's not like Disney hasn't taken chances before. I mean, definitely look at The Last Jedi as a prime example. They felt like they were very hands off and let Rian Johnson tell the story that they wanted to. I think that they knew that they were getting very risky in the territory, and they still released the film that they did. And then I think after the pushback that it was The Last Jedi, I think that's when everything really changed for Lucasfilm, in the sense of like, oh my God, maybe we need to be a little bit more hands-on with what we put out the door so we don't upset the fans. But I still stand by what I've said for years. I do think within another 10, 15 years, I think people will really come to appreciate The Last Jedi for what it is, very much like how the prequels took forever to be appreciated. I do think The Last Jedi will be that of like the Revenge of the Sith level sort of appreciation that people will have for it, in regards to like the risk taking and really understand some of the values that I think Rian Johnson put in that film for generations to come. And so for me, I totally agree with you in the sense of like they need to be a little bit more hands off. They need to let these creators kind of tell the stories that they want to. Every company, because they own the rights, like these are their movies. These are their properties, you know? So there's always going to be some level of influence from the studio. It's just a matter of, you know, how hands-on are you truly getting? Are you really like changing the story, forcing these people to go into different directions that really takes away from their story? And I hope it's a lesson that they learn. But again, you know, bringing in somebody like a Simon Kinberg makes me feel like that's not the lesson that they learned, that it is a case of, you know, we want to find somebody that you said can work in this system, that is malleable, that we can kind of shape and, you know, throw ideas against the wall with and work towards putting something together. And maybe that works for them, but it does make me just wonder the level of competency. How much are they really going to push the boundaries of a Star Wars movie, or is it this them sort of playing it safe? You know, I am okay with the idea of giving us an episode 10, 11, and 12. If they do that though, I do want it to be a new saga per se. I don't necessarily need it connected to anything Skywalker related. I think you can still take brand new characters and maybe have Rey in there as that Obi-Wan Kenobi mentor and still title it episodes 10, 11, and 12 as like a new generation to kind of go forward. So I think you can pull it off. But there is some, and I don't know if this is ever going to happen, but there is a part of me that still kind of wants to see the standalone Rey movie. I think that there is some level of importance of being able to see Rey fully establish something. You know, I really do like that concept of her building a new Jedi Order. I want to see her own inner perspective of how do you create a new order? What text, what lessons do you take from previous Jedi orders that came before you that you keep or that you change? You know, like I really want to see her own personal inner struggle of having to shape that, and how do you mentor somebody? Because I would, if anything, it does make me also curious if, like he said in there, he's hearing that they've brought on a new writer for the movie itself, right? So why bring on a new writer if that movie doesn't plan on happening, or that you don't have plans for, but also allow Simon Kinberg to move forward? It does make me wonder if this new writer that's being brought in, and hear me out, this is just a theory of mine, and something I would like to see as I speculate. I would still want to see the Rey Skywalker individual movie, but bring in a new writer that will help not only allow Rey to have her own movie, but to drop pieces that will eventually connect into episodes 10, 11, and 12. Have Ridley as her own individual character in her own movie, and then maybe later on, you know, 2030, whatever the case may be, if we do get ourselves at episode 10, then maybe have it as a time jump and then focus on her as strictly just a mentor, you know, whether that be parts of her Jedi Order has flourished and now she's just a mentor and we jump into new generation of characters, whatever the case may be. But I would like there to kind of be some level of connective tissues there. And I wonder if them having Simon Kinberg on board to do this trilogy, and now bringing in another writer for the Rey movie, I do wonder if there's some level of working together behind the scenes to make sure that these stories cohesively kind of fit. But you know, again, I don't mind if Rey pops up in episodes 10 through 12 as a mentor, but there is a part of me that still wants to see her own individual movie, Stuart.
I would be very annoyed if those both came out and there was zero communication between the two writers.
Right.
That would be, because like then you'd have like her having one completely different arc in her standalone movie, and then those events being completely ignored in the trilogy. That would be, yeah, just really bad production decisions overall. So, you know, I'm kind of with you. In fact, I actually, before we even get this trilogy, can we just get the Rey standalone movie first, just to see if this is something that can work? See if this is something that Daisy Ridley wants to do, if this is something fans want to see. Just start with just one movie, see how it goes, and then if it's a success, then maybe, you know, have that movie kind of be the predecessor to the trilogy of episodes 10 through 12.
And I do wonder if that's, I guess that's the big question, right? I don't know if fans, certain group of fans have a taste for a Rey Skywalker movie, but I do think that there's just a part of me that feels like it's important to have it in the sense of laying the groundwork for what may be in episodes 10, 11, and 12. Like I would be, I don't want to say devastated, but it would just be odd to see, like you said, Rey really coming into her own at the end of episode 9 and accepting a responsibility. And then the next time that we see her, we have no idea what she's done or accomplished, and she just comes in as a mentor to somebody else. And so I do think it's important to show what she's been capable of or what she's done, certainly on her own, for the bigger generation, so she can have that mentor aspect really be a little bit more impactful when we get into the next trilogy of films here. So I don't know. I really don't know what direction that they're going, but I'm hoping that if they did bring in a new writer, that there may be some connective tissue to working alongside Simon Kinberg to make this all flesh out and make sense. But we'll see, man. We'll see what happens. Star Wars Celebration, I think, is in April of next year. Don't quote me on that, but I'm sure there'll probably be more announcements there for sure. And I hope, if anything, we've got more concrete news in the sense of things really going into production when they when they make these announcements. Because other than that, Stuart, like you, I've become numb to announcements like this, honestly.
Yeah. It's like, I'll believe it when I see production photos, and I will not believe it before then.
Yeah, absolutely. But guys, let us know your thoughts. How do you want to see Lucasfilm and Disney navigate this? They announced 3 previous movies from Dave Filoni, James Mangold, Charmaine Obaid-Chinoy for the Rey Skywalker movie. Now we've got ourselves a possible trilogy here for episodes 10 through 12. How would you like to see them navigate? What movies do you want to see them cancel? What would you like to see them push forward with? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that, Stuart, real quick, shout out to Darth Gutierrez. Chilling, Adam. Yeah, I'm chilling too, man. My stomach's not feeling too good, but we'll push through. We got a couple more topics. From serious Star Wars to spoofy Star Wars. Good old Spaceballs, believe it or not, is back in the news this week, Stuart. We got ourselves a Spaceballs sequel, believe it or not. That's in development, behind the scenes. We've known for quite some time that Josh Gad is in fact connected to this in regards to working with Mel Brooks to go ahead and write a Spaceballs sequel. And it's been a minute since we've actually heard anything from Josh Gad, but this week he's actually given us an update, Stuart. So let's go ahead and dive into this news and see what Josh Gad is letting us know. This comes to us from Forbes magazine. Josh Gad teases the long-awaited Spaceballs sequel. He says everyone who's read it. Why do we got all these damn ads? Like, there's not even room to see the article. Hold on a second. Can I cancel this? Can I close this shit down? Okay. Everybody who's read it has been blown away, Stuart, is what he says. Let's see here. Can I get this to work for me? Come on, y'all. Forbes, I hate you. Why do you got so many ads, Forbes? Damn, bro. Start heating up those flamethrowers and pile into the Winnebago, kids. Over the summer, Variety broke the news that MGM had officially entered development on a long-awaited sequel to Mel Brooks' beloved sci-fi spoof, Spaceballs. The second installment, which Goldskin merchandising maven Yogurt alluded to in the 1987 original, hails from Brooks and Josh Gad, both of whom will serve as producers. In addition, Gad is set to star in the comedic feature, which he's writing alongside Detective Pikachu duo Benji Samit and Dan Hernandez. Josh Greenbaum will direct, and while Kevin Salter takes on the role. What the fuck? Come on, man. Takes on the role as executive producer. May the Schwartz be with them all. No other intel was released at the time, but I recently had a chance to speak with Gad about his new Dark Horse comic. His tease was vague, but just tasty enough to get Pizza the Hut watering at the mouth. He says, without MGM taking me into their hold on a second. Let me see if I can pull up another. I'm going to pull up this image while we talk about this. So this article doesn't drive people crazy like it is me. Everybody he says, without MGM taking me into their Culver prison cells, I can tell you that the draft is done. Everybody who's read it has been blown away. The process of working on this with and alongside Mel Brooks has been one of the highlights of my career. It was sort of a fever dream that this all happened. Mel has been um, Mel has been so unbelievably supportive, involved, and electrified this because it's the one that surprisingly got away. It's a dream to be able to finally make the reality prophesized by Yogurt in the first movie happen. I can't say more than that. I can't tell you anything beyond the process at this point, but I can tell you every hour of every day now is spent making this project closer and closer to reality. And I think we're nearing the end zone here. When asked if the sequel would really be titled The Search of More Money, um, Gad let out a cryptic chuckle and said, "Watch this space." So we'll see. We'll see if it's going to be The Search for More Money or not. What do you think about this, Stu?
You know, I can't say I'm like overly hyped for it, but I'll definitely be watching it when it comes out because I love Spaceballs 1, and this may be blasphemy to say, but like there are days, you know, if I'm in the mood for a comedy, there are days when Spaceballs is better than Star Wars, you know. You just got to be watching it in the right mood. But yeah, if you watch in the correct mindset, there are days where I'm kind of like, nah, I'd rather watch Spaceballs than Star Wars. So I look forward to this. I'm very curious because they mentioned Mel Brooks seems to be like super heavily involved in this, you know, despite the fact that he's not the main writer. So I'm curious if he's going to be reprising his role as either Yogurt or what was he? Not the emperor, but he was like the president. That's right.
Yeah.
If he's going to be reprising his role as either characters. Also with Rick Moranis now getting back into acting, are we going to be seeing him come back as a Darth Helmet? Because man, if we don't get the two of them back, I don't know. What's the point of even making this at that point? Because I think most of the actors, I know that obviously the actor that played Barf. Yeah, Barf, that's right. I know that he unfortunately passed away. But all the other actors, I think, are still out there. So, yeah, I would love to see like all of them kind of reprising their roles, and then see if they do like a Force Awakens where they give us like a younger cast to like pick up the mantle, but like in a more self-aware kind of way. Yeah, I think this has a lot of potential. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to get myself too hyped up because comedies can go either way. Comedy is like the most subjective thing on the planet. So even if it gets good reviews, that doesn't necessarily is going to click with everyone. But yeah, like I'm curious enough to check it out when it comes out.
Yeah, I would agree with you in the sense that when it comes to comedies, I feel like have got to be like one of the more difficult movies to make, just because of you never know the level of sense of humor that it's going to have. You got to make it a good movie and a funny movie, right? So then now you've got to make a good movie, which is already hard to make, but then you got to make a good funny movie. Like that just seems like just equally like a chore to have to kind of put together also. But you know, I am with you in the vein of like, there's a part of me that I kind of want to see this movie if they're really going to give it a shot. Like I do love Josh Gad's humor. And so there are parts of me that it's like him teaming up and getting influence and, you know, maybe some creative decisions from Mel Brooks, I think is really fascinating. It could be really fun. You know, the fact that Josh Gad says this is really like the movie that got away from Mel Brooks. I guess he really wanted to make a Spaceballs sequel and it never came to fruition. So I got to think that Mel Brooks has still got some ammo left over for a sequel that can certainly be used. And then you add somebody like a Josh Gad that can probably bring in a more modern day level of humor also, to where I think that even though Mel Brooks isn't necessarily working on it, I gotta think that he's given him Josh Gad some real gold to kind of work with. I'm glad that you brought up the Rick Moranis stuff because I feel like getting Rick Moranis back into any film is extremely difficult to, and I think he's probably going to be very picky about the movies that he attaches himself to. But I do wonder if Spaceballs has a special place in his heart, if he would give it another shot, sort of thing. because it is something that I personally would like to see. You know, do I need a Spaceballs sequel? Probably not, because the first Spaceballs is absolutely perfect for me. But I just think the creators behind who's making this, I think, makes it even more fascinating to me to be like, there may be something here. And while, you know, I want to bring up this comment here by Marcelino, there are aspects to his comment here I believe are true. He says Spaceball, you know, parody movies don't have the same charm as they did years ago. Today, a parody movie only works if you're trying to tell a story and have that develop, like Scream, Deadpool, and The Boys. And to a certain extent, I would agree that making parody movies these days are a little bit more difficult. But I think what works for a parody here is just because of the nonstop debacle that we've seen Lucasfilm in recently and trying to make a good Star Wars movie, the constant writers, the constant beginning and starting, like there's just gotta be comedy gold in there somewhere that they can really make fun of the Star Wars franchise for just like where they're at today. And so for me, I think just because of how people perceive Star Wars these days, if there's any time to really make a parody and be able to make fun of itself as to like what it is, I think now more than ever is probably really perfect timing. Any other, like if Star Wars was like at its height again, sort of thing, and we were in a really good place, then maybe not. But I do think because of what Disney Film and Lucasfilm has done with the franchise, that it's like, bro, there's just so many opportunities for great gold comedy here that I hope Josh Gad really nails it. And so I do think this is one of maybe the few parodies that could potentially work for a modern day audience here. But so I'm intrigued. I'm really intrigued. I'll wait until we see our first trailer here, but the minds behind it is what's giving me a little bit more confidence.
With with Epic Movie and Disaster Movie and Meet the Spartans and a few other movies that came out during that era, those were all made because they had non-union writers, so they were just the easiest to pump out during the 2008 writer's strike. I don't know if they all came out in 2008, but I know that a majority of them were definitely written back in 2008. And that's also why they're also like some of the cheapest looking movies like you'll ever see. Like the costumes look like they were bought straight from Party City. You know, so bad. Movie 43, from what I hear, that was one that most of the actors were kind of tricked into signing up for. Apparently in a lot of contracts, there were kind of hidden like in fine detail of, oh, and you're agreeing to be in this movie too if you agree to be in this movie, that actors I guess didn't notice in their contract. So majority of the actors in movie 43 did not want to be in that movie.
And he did say, today a parody movie only works if you're trying to tell a story. And I still think that there's a story in there to be told. I think,
oh yeah,
I mean, Spaceballs had a story to be told, even though it made fun of itself, so I do think there is a story that they could probably tell in here. I don't think it's just going to be spoofing the spoof and like make fun of things without, just being just nonsensical comedy. I do think that there'll be a main story that we follow, and it making fun of itself. So yeah, I think Mel Brooks is like the king of that type of stuff, and I think attached with the comedy chops of Josh Gad, and I'm sure he's probably a big Star Wars fan himself, if I'm not mistaken too. But I think it's a good combination of minds that can make something special here. So we'll see. I'm not saying it's going to be the best in the world, but it's enough to fascinate me to want to be interested in it for sure.
Definitely. And you are right. He is a huge Star Wars fan because he actually voiced, I think, a couple characters on Star Wars Rebels. And plus, he did that one video with Daisy Ridley when they were working on Murder on the Orient Express. He made this video where he was joking like, okay, so we're going to read our lines together. So I'm going to ask, hey, has there been a murder? And you're going to tell me who Rey's parents are in The Last Jedi.
I love it. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. How are you feeling about a sequel to Spaceballs with Josh Gad? Mel Brooks is not the writer, but clearly he seems to be a creative consultant on this as well. Are you eager? Are you trepidatious? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And before we move on to the next topic, guys, remember, if you want to go ahead and submit a live viewer question over, you certainly can. Go over to our YouTube page, click on that community tab, and there is a live viewer question post. If you're watching us live, wherever you're watching us from, man, hit that like button, share this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Let people know that A+ Hero Report is currently live. And with that, Stuart, we will move into our next topic here as we prepare for season 2 of Squid Game, baby. That's right. We are ever so close to the second season dropping as Lee Jung-jae certainly returns after his incredible performance in The Acolyte. He is, in fact, back for season 2, and things are about to get even more intense. You know, I personally have really loved the trailers that we've gotten so far for this, Stuart. It looks pretty interesting, especially with his character revealing to the other contestants in the trailer that he's played these games before. And I think the idea of him just letting out that secret alone certainly will change the games as we know it. And I think a lot of people's perspective on how to tackle these games. And so the showrunner this week came out and talked a little bit about not only season 2, but really where he sees the series as a whole going and how he plans on concluding it. So let's go ahead and dive into this article here, because believe it or not, the end of Squid Game is a lot closer than I think some of us expected. This is from The Hollywood Reporter. It says, if I can get this thing to work, Squid Game showrunner creator teases crazy season 2 and explains decision to end the series with season 3. So they're not playing around, Stuart. They look like they've got a story to be told, and that's it. It says 3 years after Squid Game became a cultural phenomenon, as well as Netflix's most popular show of all time in any language, the series is back for a second season with Lee Jung-jae's Ji-hun returning to the game. After giving up his opportunity to go to the States after winning, player 456 is now headed back to the arena with a whole new group of participants and a new mission in mind. At a For Your Consideration awards event for the new season in Los Angeles on Sunday, the creator, who won an Emmy for directing season 1, spoke about how he approached the new batch of episodes after the show's explosive success. He says, "Of course, I felt a certain amount of pressure because I knew that there was a huge amount of anticipation out there. And honestly, when I was creating season 1, I didn't plan in any detail that there would be a second season. However, I did have something in mind that if there were ever to be a second season, I had this idea of which story I would tell. I thought it would be the story of Ji-hun turning away from where
Did I lose you? Oh no. I'm gonna see if I can bring up that same article real quick, everyone. Because I was on the Hollywood Reporter. Oh, it looks like he's coming back, but just in case, let me get that article up. That's weird. I thought I had the article.
Yeah,
up,
if you could pull it up, I'll be right back, Stuart.
Cool. Squid Game season 3. All right, here we go. Trying to see, make sure I get to the right spot. Okay, cool. And let me just bring up my screen share. All right, cool. So I believe this is where we get to the, let me just start from here. At a For Your Consideration awards event for the new season in Los Angeles on Sunday, the creator, who won an Emmy for directing season 1, spoke about how he approached the new batch of episodes after the show's explosive success. Of course, I felt a certain amount of pressure because I knew that there was a huge amount of anticipation out there. And honestly, when I created season 1, I didn't plan any detail that there would be a second season. he told the reporter. However, I did have something in mind that if there were to ever be a second season, I had this idea of what story I could tell. I thought it would be the story of Ji-hun turning away from where he was at the end of season 1 and going back into the games in order to put a stop to the game. Nothing that throughout season 2 and 3, it's going to be about that very important journey by Ji-hun that you're going to be following both physically and emotionally. Which doesn't surprise me because you look at how the first season kind of came, and yeah, it was like not only a very physically demanding, thing that like essentially role that that our character had to play, but also emotionally, like the loss that he had to endure and all that. So it makes sense that we're going to be seeing probably more of that within season 2. Lee, who was also present at the event and also won an Emmy for season 1, joked when first getting the script for season 2, I didn't think that he would write that fast. I really doubted he could do that. And when I actually read them, I thought this is immaculate. There's absolutely nothing that needs to be changed. It was so well written, and I was just in awe of this talented thinking. This man's a genius. At a panel conversation following an early screening of season 2's first episode. Oh, I didn't even realize it was already filmed. That's cool. Howing explained that something inside Lee's character has just broken by the time in the game, saying Ji-hun has experienced too many things, witnessed too many deaths for him to return the way he was before. No matter how hard he tries, Lee confirmed. The way you see Ji-hun in season 1 and the state that you see him in season 2 is very different, which this doesn't surprise me at all, because the very beginning that we see him in season 1, he's a loser, he's someone that you're just not rooting for at all, and then by the time we see him by the end of season 1, he's a new person with a whole new goal in mind, but he has this goal, but how much more like loss can he witness before it completely shatters him emotionally? Lee also admitted returning to set with almost an entirely new cast was so strange, as for season 1, so many colleagues and castmates poured their heart and soul into it, and then with each round of the games, we had to say goodbye to so many people, which of course makes sense. So all of those memories. Damn, I keep trying to like highlight so I can scroll down easier, but then it keeps like bumping me back up. Those memories came back very vividly, and also within the story, because so many characters had died at the on the set. It was almost like I was being pulled back into hell, and I think I could truly feel what the director had intended for me and my character. Were the moments I stepped onto set, I felt like I really wish more people would make it out alive this time.
Wow.
So yeah, so it seems like our main actor is definitely getting into this role for season 2. Like he's actually kind of to an extent feeling that same emotion that we're going to be feeling for that our main character is going to be feeling, which makes me think that with how great of a performance he gave in season 1, I feel like we're going to get an incredible performance going into season 2 as well.
I will say I am always fascinated by seeing like actors that really get invested in their characters to the point of having such an emotional connection like that, because especially when he talks about how they film this in a sense of you start off with all these people around you, and then as you continue to progress in the filming of the show, that continues to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. And I gotta assume he probably takes that same levels of emotions, like he says, of saying goodbye to these characters and puts it into his, just the actors and people that he's working opposite with, having to say farewell to them as they leave, and then him and his character really having to deal with who's kind of left over, if you will. And so I gotta think that's just an emotional turmoil that him as an actor kind of puts himself through to really capture the emotions of his character. And so I find stuff like that really interesting to see how he approaches every day on set like that.
Definitely. And then here we get to the part about season 3 being the end. So Netflix announced over the summer that Squid Games would come to a close with a third season, which is set to release in 2025. I always forget how to pronounce his name. It's Hwang. Am I
Yeah, I would
pronouncing that
just
right?
maybe I don't know, Huang, yeah.
Huang told the Hollywood Reporter that he is nearly done with the editing portion of season 3, and explained why he chose to wrap up the show relatively quickly. When I was thinking about the idea for the ending of season 3, I think it sort of naturally came to me that this was the finale, the creator said. I believed that with that story, I was able to tell everything that I wanted to tell through the story of Squid Game, and also in perspective, Jihan as a character. And I thought that we don't need any further stories from here. So I think he might have just spoiled the fact that he survives at the end of season 2.
I was gonna say, I guess Jihan comes out of this alive in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, appreciate you tackling that, Stuart.
Yeah. The thing that I'm excited about is I love it when a show has an ending in mind from not necessarily from the start, because it sounds like he came up with the ending like while he was writing it, but I am glad that it is going to have like an actual official ending, so we don't have to worry about it feeling like the show is just dragging on longer than it really needs to.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I do miss the days of 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons of shows, but I feel like sometimes when we tend to get those length of shows, you just start watering down the product a little bit more. And you're really just sort of stretching out the story that doesn't necessarily need to be stretched out. And in the case of Squid Game, while I think a lot of us would love to see like all the different variations and type of games and stuff, I think if we go past the season 3, then it becomes an idea of like, okay, like, are we just treading water now at this point? Like, how many games can we come up with that we kind of put these people through? And I think based off of too, just how secretive these games are, after seeing the character survive and have this idea of like, no, I need to stop these games. It would make sense that within a 3-season period that there is a conclusion to this story. Whether or not he's successful of shutting this down at the end of season 2 or at the end of season 3, who definitely knows. But I do like showrunners that have stories in mind, and know how to end things on their own terms and wrap things up. And I rather have a 3-season show that's wrapped up neatly, told in a very tight manner, and concluded. And if we get some really great arcs from his characters, ups and downs, beginning to end, to see how his character really ends up at a emotional standpoint or psychological standpoint after all of this, I think you got no better actor than Lee Jung Jae that can kind of bring that to life here. So I appreciate the idea of not overstaying your welcome and knowing when to end something and how to wrap up something. So this definitely makes sense to me in the long run. I think you're muted if you said anything.
Oh yeah, I just said
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in regards to Squid Game season 2 coming soon and wrapping up in season 3. Because I'm really fascinated. And I also love the line when he says like he read the script and it was immaculate. Did I freeze again?
And looks like you just froze again. But yeah, I guess because we're waiting for Adam to come back, I'm going to see if I have any final thoughts on this. Because yeah, I think as a whole, season 1 and 2, or season 1 told a really good story, and if it didn't get continued, like a part of me would have been disappointed, because clearly there was he had a plan, and so you know, it would have been kind of disappointing not to see him, what would happen with that plan of him trying to take down the game. But at the same time, I think it would have been a pretty solid open ending if they decided to end it in season 1. But them continuing it for season 2 and 3, again, doesn't worry me, just because, like, you know, the fact that there is an ending in mind, there is an end game, a goal in which, you know, our character has to reach. It's, you know, it gets me a lot more optimistic for season 2. Not that I wasn't optimistic about it before, but now, you know, again, knowing that there's going to be a through line, you know, gets me really excited. Knowing that, I think more than anything, because like Netflix and Adam, I'm sure you'll agree with me here, Netflix has like a really annoying habit of like canceling their shows before their stories are completed. So I think the biggest relief about that is we know that this isn't going to be one of those cases. It's not going to be one of those cases where there's a huge cliffhanger and we're never going to get it resolved because Netflix decided to suddenly cancel the show.
Yeah, they're like, bro, you're not getting away with that with me. I was like, no way, you're not about to cancel me in the middle of my storytelling whatsoever.
You can't cancel my show because I already ended it.
yeah, that's that mentality for sure. Does my microphone sound okay?
Oh, perfect.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, for some, I think it's my USB port for it's either the USB port for my computer or it's the cord itself. It just stops recognizing my webcam from time to time, and it makes me have to like unplug it and plug it back in. So I do apologize. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts on the showrunner's thoughts on canceling or completing this series at season 3. And with that out of the way, Stuart, we will move on to the topic that I think you are really excited about. As look, man, when it comes to video game adaptations to live action stuff, whether that be television series or movies, I feel like we've been getting a lot of them lately. And one of the companies that I think is really, I don't want to say has a stranglehold on a lot of these properties, but I feel like as of late, anytime you hear of a live adaptation of a video game property, Amazon is not too far behind. And they are in the news again as they got themselves another property that they're going to go ahead and set to tackle. And this is a property that I was a really big fan of for quite some time. I did fall off, I think, after when it comes to Mass Effect in general. I do believe that I played the first 2 games. I don't think I ever finished a trilogy for Commander Shepard. But I do believe recently, within the past few years, they came out with a 4th Mass Effect video game. And I think there might be even plans on doing a 5th one as well, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe Stuart can correct me. But Mass Effect is in the news. I believe we announced this before that Amazon had picked them up, this property up, but it looks like it's official. The TV series is officially in the works, Stuart. This comes to us from Variety.com, letting us know Mass Effect TV series in the works at Amazon from the Fast and Furious 9 writer. We'll see what this means, Stuart. It says a Mass Effect TV series is officially in development at Amazon MGM Studios. Variety has learned exclusively. Daniel Casey is set to write and executive produce the adaptation. Zoram Zreek will executive produce as well. It says exact plot details are being kept under wraps. It was previously reported back in 2021 that Amazon was in negotiations to develop a Mass Effect TV series, but there have been no updates on the project until now. There had also been various attempts to develop a feature film based on the games, but the project never materialized. So then it does go into how many video games that there certainly have been. The story of the first 3 Mass Effect games revolve around Commander Shepard, a human soldier in the 22nd century trying to save humanity from a race of aliens known as the Reapers. Andromeda moved the games much further into the future with a new protagonist, with the 5th game also in the works. Casey was most recently worked on the screenplay for F9, The Fast Saga. He is also known for his work on films like the sci-fi drama Kin, and he did rewrites on 10 Cloverfield Lane as well. So it does look like that's the announcement, that they have themselves a writer officially attached here, and Daniel Casey. As again, we probably did announce the idea of a Mass Effect movie back in 2021 when the news dropped for you guys, but it has officially found a writer. So a television series is certainly in development at this stage, Stuart. And with you being the big Mass Effect fan that you are, I definitely would love to know your thoughts on this project right now.
Finally. Yeah, no, I feel like if any video game world really has the potential for like world building and expanding like the universe, is definitely Mass Effect. I love in the original Mass Effect trilogy, you play as a soldier who makes a huge difference in the outcome of like, this really deadly war against this ancient race of machines known as the Reapers. But there was also like what was so fascinating about it is that there was so much history in this world that took place like before the events of the game, and then just so much potential for where the continuation of that game's like lore could have gone like after the events of the Reaper invasion. Something that like Andromeda didn't quite do, because like obviously it took place in a completely separate galaxy, so they kind of didn't really address it too much. There were like Easter eggs about the events of the Mass Effect trilogy, but other than that, it was pretty much a standalone game, which is fine. I mean, the game itself was kind of trash, but it being standalone was totally fine. But, that all being said, though, there's so many cool events I get like reference, whether it's the Arachnite War, the First Contact War, or just, humans trying to prove themselves to the Council that they can be just as useful to the Citadel as any other of the alien races that are like, that are part of the whole Citadel. They don't really call it like a federation or anything, but it's basically like most alien races will have like a spot with the Citadel, but only 3 at the very end of the first game. 4 have a spot on the Council. So it would be kind of cool to see like maybe a prequel to Mass Effect 1 about humans trying to prove themselves, prove that they are worthy of being part of this bigger society and all that kind of stuff. And then of course the big thing is, like I mentioned earlier, First Contact War. It's something that gets referenced a lot. We know that Anderson played a huge part in it. We could also set up Saren in the First Contact War, because we know that Saren absolutely hated humans, and we could, give him a really cool origin that shows maybe why he hates humans so much. There's just so much potential. I just hope that it's not a remake of the games. I hope they go the Fallout route, where the games are canon to the show, rather than just having it be just recreating the games in the form of a TV show like they did with the Last of Us. I'm not saying that would be a deal breaker for me. I'll still watch it if it's just the Shepard trilogy, but like in the form of a TV show. It's just that I feel like there's so much more potential of other areas that you could explore. The main thing too that I'm so curious about, because some of the alien designs are so creative, I'm very curious if how much we're gonna be getting in terms of CG, and how much we're gonna be getting in terms of practical costumes, because I've seen some really amazing cosplays, people able to pull off a really cool Krogan costumes, which I imagine are not cheap to do. So I think that's like the main thing I'm curious about. Are we gonna go the practical route? Are we gonna go the CG route? Yeah, just so many things that I'm curious about with this, and I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, man, I think your level of enthusiasm is like getting me hyped for this project even more. It's been so long since I played the Mass Effect games, but I echo all your sentiments. You bring up a good point in the sense of like there's just so much lore that they can really sink their teeth into. It would almost be a shame if it was just a straight adaptation of the video games in that sense. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it at all, because I am a fan of the Commander Shepard character, and I would love to see just that story fleshed out. But the idea of being able to have the rights to something like a Mass Effect, I mean, I think of something along the lines of, and it's not to compare, but I mean, we're in such a place right now with different types of mediums that I think you could do a ton of the things that you talked about, whether that be a First Contact War movie, or a prequel. Maybe the series itself is sort of a prequel to what happened before, or have a prequel animated movie, or whatever the case may be. Like I do think there's a lot of different things that you can kind of tap into. And I was going to ask you, Stuart, too, the idea of like when I think of Mass Effect, I struggle. I don't want to say I struggle to think of it as a television series, because I think this is like, you can have something like Halo, but better in the sense of like as far as television series goes from a storytelling perspective. But it does make me wonder, like, why these aren't turned into a movie also, because I think that they could really work as a feature film if you set it up in the sense of maybe having in mind of maybe let's try and have a trilogy here. But there is a density to these characters and a big political ramifications, and just a big intergalactic all these moving pieces, to certainly say the least. So maybe that's why they decided maybe not necessarily a movie to cram a story within a certain amount of time. And maybe these stories really do need the chance to breathe. I mean, when you are telling like these long form stories from video games that are very open world ended, I do think that maybe in this sense a television series would work, because you're not feeling rushed to put so much within a 2-hour span. But I'm in agreement with you. I do think that there's just so much that they can really tap into. What direction they go with this television series, if it's a direct adaptation of the video game, or if there's moments in time that have happened, if they're going to be telling those stories. Regardless, I think movies are in play, television series are in play. Give me stuff animated that's all connected to this world, as long as it's all canonically connected. I'm open for it. So I'm looking forward to this, man. But I think you even mentioned the idea of like what the costume designs are possibly going to look like, and the character designs really got me pumped when you started talking about that, because I look at things like the Acolyte in regards to regardless of how you felt about some of the series, I do think they did a great job when it comes to some of their alien designs in that series as well. So yeah, man, I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Yep, same here. Yeah, man, it's like I want to say more, but it's like I don't know what exactly they're going with. But I'm definitely looking forward to covering news about this, like as more new information comes out.
Yeah, we don't really have a release date as of yet. Like I said, the series has been in development, pre-production, if anything, since 2021. It looks like they finally just nailed down a writer, so maybe more details, story-wise, will be fleshed out a little bit more. Maybe they'll understand the direction that they kind of want to go, and hopefully within the next several months, maybe we'll get more updates. But guys, let us know your thoughts in regards to a Mass Effect TV series in development. I didn't even play Andromeda. Did you like that game?
Dude, I didn't even beat Andromeda. I played it, and I don't know. I think there were too many like small, like pointless things that they added into the game that was mixed in with all the important tasks that you had to do. And so there just became like a point where I'm just like, I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, because I felt like I was too underpowered to continue the main story. But I also everything, the way the side missions are organized, felt like so chaotic. And not to mention the weapon crafting system. It took me a minute to figure out how that all worked. So it may have just been that the game was too complicated for me. I'm not even gonna lie. It may have just been that I was just too dumb for Andromeda. But yeah, it didn't hit me the same way as the original trilogy. The characters just didn't stand out as much as they did in the original Mass Effect trilogy, where it's like, in that trilogy, I loved every single character, every single one of my squad mates. It's why it makes like the ending like,
yeah.
The first time you play Mass Effect 2, it's great when you don't go fully prepared, because then it makes the loss of your squad mates just that much more like impactful. When you lose them, because then it's like it's like heartbreaking. So I absolutely love the ending of Mass Effect 2. It's like one of the most amazing final missions in any video game ever, and then just like what it all accumulates to, and how it constantly changes depending on how many of your squad mates you've helped out, depending on how much you've upgraded the Normandy, depending on if you even assign your squad mates to do the correct missions, because all of that matters when it comes to making sure your squad mates make it out of that mission alive, which I love.
Yeah, it's almost BioWare at one of its finest points, for sure. It was an incredible game. I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts on Mass Effect and the television series in development. And then last but not least, we're going to end on, we talked a little bit about Rian Johnson earlier in the episode when when we discussed Star Wars. Rian Johnson's going to be completing his trilogy here for Knives Out with Wake Up Dead Man. I believe that's the name of the title for the third installment here. Set to go ahead and drop, if I'm not mistaken, I think this year, December, around the holiday season. We're going to be getting Knives Out 3. This week, Daniel Craig was in the news talking a little bit about the idea of like his hopefulness that Knives Out 3 will actually get itself a theatrical version. Do me a favor, Stuart. I know the first Knives Out was in theaters. Can you look up if there was a release for Knives Out 2 in theaters? And if so, if it shows how long it was out in theaters. Because Daniel Craig is back in the news. And we're going to bring up this article. This one comes to us from Variety.com. Saying Daniel Craig wants Netflix to put Knives Out 3 in theaters for more than just 1 week. Oh, go ahead.
So yeah, it was only 1 week and only grossed $15 million because of that.
Wow. I think they definitely they made a ton of money from Netflix deal alone to go ahead and make these movies. I can't even remember how big the amount was when they decided to make these exclusively for Netflix. But I do think that they probably could have made a little bit more money at the box office. See how much the first Knives Out wind up making. It says Daniel Craig knows the Knives Out franchise belong in movie theaters, so he's hoping Netflix will give the upcoming third installment, officially titled Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery, a theatrical release that lasts more than just 1 week. That's how long the Netflix's 2022 Glass Onion in theaters for, which seemingly is not Craig's preference. The actor told Variety during an interview for its queer cover story that Knives Out 3 deserves a more robust theatrical rollout. What did you find, Stuart?
$312 million on a $40 million budget.
God damn.
So yeah, it was definitely a profitable film.
Yeah, it definitely was. I can't remember how much they said might have went into the budget for Knives Out 3. I think it was actually something crazy, if I'm not mistaken. But this is what Daniel Craig says. He says, I do. When asked if he thinks Wake Up Dead Man should play in theaters for longer than 1 week. Hopefully, he says, Netflix will push it out a bit and people will get to see it. The people I speak to, the fans, I suppose, all they want to do is take their families and go see it at the cinemas. That's all they want to do. Hopefully, we can give them that experience. Never mind. It answers the question here. It says the first Knives Out movie was released by Lionsgate in 2019, became a word-of-mouth smash hit over the holiday movie season with $312 million at the world box office. Netflix ultimately struck a deal with Johnson to develop 2 Knives Out sequels. The first, which was played for a week in the country, while Netflix gave Glass Onion 1 week theatrical release. It did strike deals at the time with the country's largest theater chains, AMC's, Regal Cinemas, and Cinemark, in order to put Knives Out in 600 theaters. That remains the widest release Netflix has ever done. Notably, the sequel was 600 theaters is nothing, though. Like, I feel like there's so many more other theaters that or maybe I'm thinking of screens, but I feel like I've heard like in the thousands at least sometimes for like limited releases, but maybe I'm tripping, or maybe it's not theaters, maybe it's screens that they're referring to, but 600 theaters just doesn't seem like a lot to me personally. He says, notably, the sequel was the first Netflix movie to screen in AMC and Regal locations, as the 2 exhibitors had long refused the streamers' films because Netflix would not adhere to more traditional theatrical windows. Glass Onion remains the only time Netflix did such a wide release for one of its films. It's unclear if the streamer intends to do the same for Wake Up Dead Man. Yeah. Stuart, this is a film, I think for me, I am a big believer in Rian Johnson and his work here. I think he's done 2 stellar Knives Out films. Me personally, I think Glass Onion is even better than the first one. I love Rian Johnson's range of being able to take us from a murder mystery inside of a mansion to feel like a classic Clue level film, to then take us into like an isolated island event, and deal with all these huge ensemble cast members, and everybody really, I think, got the chance to shine, and really great twists and turns here and there also that made Glass Onion a really fun experience for me when I watched it on Netflix. I didn't get a chance to see it in movie theaters, but I think based off of the success of what the first Knives Out film did in the box office, I do feel like that second movie probably would have made a little bit more money as well. Maybe not a ton, maybe like 400 million, 450 million, but I do think it probably would have built off of what the first one did. So I can understand why Daniel Craig would probably be like, you know what, yeah, this one needs a bigger release window and for a longer period of time, because I do think that there might be more money kind of left on the table. My concern though here though is, Stuart, that, you know, I feel like maybe times have changed since the first Knives Out film, in the sense of, would people go and spend money to see a Knives Out film in the theaters, or have we gotten comfortable where it's got to be a big blockbuster movie event in order for us to want to go to the movies, and this suffer from like original movies at the box office just not doing well anymore, regardless if this is the end of the trilogy, regardless if Rian Johnson's films have gotten better and better over time, if people would even go out. I do think the holiday season is the best time to certainly release these films, but I think if you're Netflix, if you're gonna release it in a widescreen, or not widescreen, but like a wide release. But maybe they're hedging their bets a little bit, because they know original movies like this just do not bring in big box office results, and so maybe that's why they went with the Glass Onion for only 1 week's time to make some additional cash around it. But while I agree with Daniel Craig that these movies do deserve, like these feel like movie theater movies to me, to be able to just escape and have a great sort of mystery unfold in front of you with great storytelling. Like, this feels like a movie going experience. My concern is just that I don't know if the payoff is going to be worth it, if Netflix will spend more money pushing these movies and marketing it than the return, based off of how much they've already kind of paid for the rights to have it as an exclusive streamer. And so that would be my fear. One, what's the other competition going to be like? Can Knives Out separate itself from some of the other holiday films that are going to be out there? You know, maybe if this was a few years ago, maybe, but I just don't know if the box office is showing that it's capable of having a big time result from this. But what do you think about that, Stuart?
I would say I would normally agree that, yeah, I think that if this was kind of like the other two movies, maybe it wouldn't have the biggest box office if they released in theaters. But the budget for this movie is $210 million.
Yikes.
Which makes me think that, like, they're not going to get their money back on Netflix subscriptions alone. If they want their money back, they're going to have to release this theatrically. And they're going to really want to start marketing it, because I haven't seen any marketing for this movie other than a teaser. So they're really going to have to like step up their game if they want to make money off of this movie. So I don't know exactly what Netflix's plan is, but I'm kind of on Daniel Craig's side on this. It's like, not just because I think every movie deserves to be released in theaters, but also just because practically it makes more sense than not releasing it in theaters at this point.
Yeah, I guess in the sense of like just trying to get some of that money back. I am surprised. Like, I wonder what the budget for Glass Onion was. If it was
40 million, just like the first one.
Really?
Like, they were both $40 million. So I'm just like I'm still excited for Knives Out 3, but I'm just like wondering what happens in this movie that, like, you know, that necessitates the need to like quadruple that budget. Because
maybe it goes into space or something.
has to solve a murder mystery on in like a space station.
Space station.
That would be okay if they don't do that for this movie. That would be a fun idea for a fun murder mystery movie. Well, I guess technically that already exists. It's the video game called Among Us, but if they ever wanted to do an Among Us adaptation, why not just have it be the fourth Knives Out movie?
I mean, that does boggle my mind in the sense of like the explosion of the budget here. I wonder who some of the talent is that they're bringing in, and I also do wonder if it's like maybe they have made great returns on Glass Onion. Like maybe if it didn't necessarily do so well box office wise for the 1 week that it was in there, like maybe they managed to make money sort of elsewhere. If anything, it's like maybe they took some of that profit from the first Glass Onion movie and they were like, I can't remember how much the deal was for these other two films. Something tells me it was like $400 million or something like that. And so I wonder if they saved a lot of money making the second one and still made some level of profit off of it. And so they had like just all this leftover money and they're just like, you know what, let's just put this all towards the last film itself, because I don't see the last movie making like you had been like $500 million, maybe $600 million to even break even from like a 240 something million. Like I can't even imagine how much money this movie truly has to make. I probably have to sit down and do the math on it, but it just feels like a really uphill battle to climb. But I guess if you're Netflix and you want to get some money back, I'm hoping some of that 200 million that goes into the budget is actually already put towards marketing and putting things together. So we'll see, man. But I would agree with you. I think the movie deserves to be out there. I just don't know if it's going to get the return that they're hoping that it would get is all. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. So yeah, we'll see how this turns out. But I'm excited for the film. Are you, Stuart?
Definitely. I love Knives Out and Glass Onion. So yeah.
Yeah, I think Daniel Craig has been amazing in this particular role also. But that will do it, ladies and gentlemen, for all of our main topics for the day. And Stuart, I think you know what time it is.
I do indeed. And now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And if you ever have a live viewer question, it's pretty simple. How do you submit your question? Just go over to our YouTube page and such. Click on the community tab, and voila. And you'll see that every Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, like to go ahead and drop these live viewer question posts, so feel free to go ahead and submit them over every Saturday afternoon or evening whenever you see the post, and then we'll answer your questions live on air. Let me go ahead, and if the music is too loud, certainly go ahead and let us know, guys. Let's go ahead and sort this, and if you wouldn't mind pulling your side up too, Stuart, just in case if I drop out for live viewer questions. Jessica Friedman, do you think it's time for another Spider Person to step into the movie or TV landscape? And do you think while deciding what to do with Power Rangers, they could have made a second season of Cosmic Fury or a sequel to Once and Always? You would think so, as like a backup game plan of like, just in case if this doesn't work out, where could we potentially go from here? But maybe it's just money that they didn't want to spend. But I don't know. I mean, do you think they could have done a second season while all this? I just don't think that they planned on it, maybe for things hitting the shit hitting the fan as much as it did, so they didn't really plan ahead like that.
Yeah, no, I think they expected a year hiatus as they prepared for the new project, and then it was going to be picking up with the reboot. But yeah, I guess it would have been kind of cool if they had like a backup plan, like to keep the show going. I don't know if I would necessarily have wanted a Cosmic Fury season 2, but maybe have them adapt other Super Sentai seasons while waiting for an actual reboot to come out.
Yeah, I would have been okay with another Once and Always personally. I would love to follow the Charlie Kirsch storyline. See where her character went. Do you think it's time for another Spider Person to step into the movie or TV landscape? Well, thankfully, that's why we're getting Spider Noir, with Nicolas Cage reprising his role in the 1920s, I think, style Spider-Man. So that I'm excited for. But I think people will always love them some Peter Parker. I don't know if Peter Parker will ever necessarily get too old, but we do have a new generation. Like there's a hunger, I think, for something Miles Morales related out there. Spider-Gwen perhaps would be interesting. I think that they've opened up the possibilities. So just depending on what type of mediums we'll get them in, I definitely do think that they will be explored a little bit more. So I think Spider Noir, especially if it is done successfully, then I think this would give other Spider-Men the opportunity to kind of get some shine as well.
Agreed.
Blossom, what's up, Blossom? Are you guys familiar with the animation strike that's still going on? Isn't it a crying shame that animation is being replaced by AI? As a rookie animator, I know I've said this a jillion times already, but geez, oh Molly, human creativity and God's given gifts are sacred. Hashtag stand with animation. I didn't know it was even still I thought there was a video game strike going on. Is that the same? I don't think that's the same thing as an animation strike, though, is there?
I think they're just two different strikes. But yeah, I know that there's the voice acting for video game voice acting strike going on, because one of my coworkers is a video game voice actor. And yeah, it all just comes down to the fact that, just like with animation, they're trying to studios are trying to see if they can get away with using AI instead of hiring animators, which in some cases with voices, if you have a really good person editing, you may be able to get away with. Not that you should. That is not me saying you should be able to do that. That is, if you are a game studio, you should not be using AI instead of actual voice actors. But it is something that you theoretically could get away with. Animation, though, if you honestly think you can replace an animator with an AI, yeah, you're going to be really disappointed when that revenue doesn't come in. That I don't know what you could possibly be thinking in something like that, but no, you cannot replace animators with AI.
Yeah, I've seen some AI generated animation stuff, and some of it just seems janky. As far like if it's like a still image, you can clearly tell it's AI, but when it comes to movement and stuff, it's just I've never seen any good AI animation, to be quite frank with you. So yeah, I tried to find animator strike. The only article that come up was one from September 17th. Animation workers sound alarm on AI and shrinking staff position as Guild resumes talks with the AMPTP. Says the Animation Guild is back at the table with the studios this week, hoping to seal a deal on a new contract by Friday. So I don't know if that's the same strike that you're talking about, or if they ever came to some level of negotiations. I might have to dive a little bit more into that. But yeah, man. Look, I will say this. I do think that animation AI is here to stay, unfortunately. It is the future. But I just hope that they manage to find a way to utilize AI to help the human animators more or less than actually take and replace their jobs. Because I do think AI, as a tool for creators, is incredible. But I do think that when you start undercutting and taking positions of people and trying to replace them so you don't have to pay them any money, and try and get by on cheap animation, then yeah, absolutely not. I think animators as a whole certainly should be protected. But I do think the idea of AI as a tool, I think, is certainly important if it benefits the animators in some way, shape, or form. But and this is why they have to sit down and figure out these negotiations in regards to being able to keep their pay substantial, and to be able to certainly keep their jobs at the end of the day. So we'll see how things turn out. But if people want to hear it or not, AI is here to stay. I think it's just in the manner of how it's going to be utilized going forward.
like I always say, AI is a great tool, and I think that, you know, if an actual animator that you hired wants to use that tool to help them animate, that is totally fine. But if you as a studio do not hire an animator and decide to use AI, that's where I have a really huge issue with AI.
Yeah, me too. Marcelino says, I wish Sony's plan with their Sony universe was using Miles Morales or any other Spider-Man and have it end with a combination into Secret Wars and being rebooted as part of the MCU. Yeah, you know, I was really hoping that that Sony would pull the trigger on a live-action Miles Morales movie itself. Like, you know, they've been setting up all these damn villains and stuff. It's just like, you know, maybe you should establish a Spider-Man in your universe in some way, shape, or form. And I think Miles Morales' popularity has grown to the point of people want a Miles Morales movie at this point in time. We don't have to necessarily always stick around with Peter Parker. If the MCU is really utilizing Peter Parker in a fantastic way, you know, I wouldn't mind seeing Miles Morales on the Sony side, and then, like Stuart says, maybe combining it into a Secret Wars level thing and then being rebooted. But I think we're past that point at this point. You know, I'm still waiting on Beyond the Spider-Verse to maybe bring Miles into like our reality in the live action world. And hell, I don't even know when that's gonna drop. So, you know, it could be well after Secret Wars at this point. But I think missed opportunities for sure. Damn, Marcelino's got let me see if I can refresh this, because it didn't let me see all of Marcelino's question. Damn, it's still not doing it.
Oh, that's weird. I can read it on my end.
Yeah, if you can read it on your end.
All right, question number 1. Today, whenever superhero movies use bombastic CGI fights at the climax of their films, they often get criticized because they feel unneeded and serve no purpose narratively. However, when did the opposite happen, when there was a time where a superhero movie or show didn't follow the same formula, but wanted it to, which includes a bombastic CGI fight? Wait.
Yeah, let me read. It did load up for me again. Let me read that again.
Okay.
Yeah,
so sure. Okay.
Yeah, today, whenever superhero movies use bombastic CGI fights as the climax in their films, they often get criticized because they feel unneeded and serve no purpose narratively. However, when did the opposite happen? When there was a time where a superhero movie or show didn't follow the same formula, but wanted it to, which includes a bombastic CGI.
Oh wait, I think what he means is like, so like when it didn't do that, but you feel like that was like a hindrance to the movie, like it actually didn't work in the movie's favor because it didn't have a giant CG fight at the end. I think that's that's actually a good one. Trying to think if like one that would have actually improved from a giant CGI battle at the end.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of movies utilize that. Like for me, from a narrative standpoint, and he says they often get criticized because they feel unneeded and serve no purpose narratively. I don't know if I've felt like that before.
I have a few times, specifically when it's like we already had kind of a final battle, and then you have like kind of another big final battle afterwards. Yeah.
I usually feel like they usually do serve the purpose narratively, but I don't know. I can't think of an example where it's like they had a big battle early on, and then the finale is like anticlimactic because it didn't have anything like that. Because usually, I mean, that's usually what your final act is dependent on, you know, like those big bombastic CGI fights are usually the climax because narratively, that's what you've been building up to sort of like all movie long. So for those big final moments to happen, for me, usually works because they're built in narratively that way. So if it does feel like an odd choice to have like what should be a climactic battle somewhere else in the movie, only to have the movie narratively end sort of anticlimactically. Did you Google it? Did you find anything like that? Like movies with anticlimactic?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm like looking at the moment.
If you have any examples, Marcelino, please.
Because
Let me
right
know.
now, the one example that I can think of, but I actually think it benefited the movie because of this, was the movie Glass, with Samuel Jackson and James McAvoy, and then Bruce Willis, reprising their roles from both Unbreakable and Split, where they imply there's about to be a giant climactic battle at like on the top of this giant building where Mr. Glass is going to unleash his ultimate evil plan. But the joke is they never even reach that destination because it all just like takes place within the asylum itself. They never actually leave the asylum. So I thought that was always kind of like a really brilliant way to kind of subvert expectations, personally. And then the other thing I can think of is like some of the more grounded superhero shows won't have them, but I also think it's a good thing that you don't have those kind of fights in the more grounded superhero shows. I think that, like, you know, if you were to take Daredevil and have him fight like some ultimate evil that's trying to destroy the world, it just wouldn't feel as it wouldn't be as cool. I guess maybe if any one of them could have benefited from it, actually, I will say probably Iron Fist, especially Iron Fist season 1. I think that with the kind of spectacular story that they were telling with Iron Fist, it was really weird that they filmed it in a very cheap, in a very like kind of grounded way. Like they try to film it the same way they did Daredevil and Jessica Jones, which I think is just like a weird decision because you're dealing with someone who literally gets powers from a dragon from an alternate dimension, and yet you're making this character like barely do that much like fantastical stuff. I think if anything, that's probably the show that could have benefited from it.
He does give some options here. He says like Black Adam, Shang-Chi, Shazam 2, Blue Beetle, Wonder Woman, Secret Invasion all had terrible CGI fights. Now, are we talking from a perspective of like just bad CGI? Because I feel like Blue Beetle I thought had a pretty good climactic battle towards the end when they were breaking into the fort, and he got the opportunity to face off against the bad guy. I like narratively that makes sense to me. But if you're talking from a standpoint of the CGI was just bad, I think that's almost feels different from the question that you're asking.
I think it's more like if it even like feels important to the story narratively, because I think that with Black Adam, Shang-Chi, I wouldn't really agree with Blue Beetle or Wonder Woman.
I probably wouldn't agree with Shang-Chi. Well, maybe Shang-Chi in the sense of him facing off against fucking Shenron at the end of this Dragon Ball Z. Maybe that's a little bit too over the top. I would agree with that. Blue Beetle I probably wouldn't agree with though, but I can kind of see the rest. Now that I'm thinking about it.
But definitely Secret Invasion, I can agree with that. It's like you go for a show that you're trying to make it seem like it's grounded, and then suddenly you get a really bad CGI battle at the end, which was apparently Kevin Feige's idea. I love how the showrunner just really wanted to throw him under the bus, as if like that's the only thing wrong with Secret Invasion was the big, really bad fight at the end, as if that's the only problem that show had.
But like Shang-Chi narratively worked for me. I mean, I think the battle itself worked. I mean, you can question the use of the dragon or not, but there definitely was emotional stakes to where narratively the ending of Shang-Chi certainly makes sense. And the same thing for me when it comes to Blue Beetle. But I would agree with you in the sense of Black Adam, Shazam 2. I'm trying to think of Wonder Woman. I think Wonder Woman made sense. If we're talking about the first one, I just think the CGI was bad in that. So some of these are hits or misses for me. Like I'm not gonna judge a movie. He says Ares felt tacked on at the end and he wasn't even planned to be in the movie, but studio forced him in at the last minute.
I find that hard to believe because like the whole movie was revolved around Ares. The God of War, unless like that was meant to be the twist, was that Ares wasn't involved and it was just people from the beginning that wanted war, which I guess could have been interesting narratively.
So I think some of these issues are just, hey, they're just really bad CGI terribly, so why even include them? But I do think some of these are fit well narratively. But I definitely get some of these for sure, Marcelino, for sure. He also says, we all know of Secret Invasion's negative reception, but when did you realize how bad this series is? We had bad shows before in Secret Invasion, but this is the first time in a long time we've seen a show this hated to the degree. Maybe after like the third episode.
Yeah, I think when I got to like episode 3 or 4 and it just felt like the show wasn't going anywhere, because I actually was super intrigued from the first episode. I actually think that the way it was set up, and then not to mention the fact that they killed Mira Hill was really shocking to me. And then it just never moved on until the very last episode, where the writing just got so bad. And not to mention, I would still say it's kind of a plot hole to have what's his name, Bilbo Baggins, his character, like to have him been a character who was replaced with a scroll, but then like, I mean, him being replaced with the scroll made sense when we see him in the beginning. But then when we see that he was one of the people captured at the end, that made no sense to me, because I'm like, wait, so I thought this guy was in Wakanda because he's wanted by the government. So how did he end up getting captured again?
He also says, people say that when you create a woman lead or a woman empowering movie, then you need to have a balance of both genders being good and bad. Many people cite Ghostbusters, 2016, Birds of Prey, and Barbie as failing to empower women because all the men are portrayed either incompetent or misogynistic pigs, and it comes across as anti-man and women are superior. They cite Wonder Woman as having a perfect balance of men and women being good and bad, because Diana, Steve, and Steven's men represent positive figures for male and female representation, while Ludendorff, Dr. Poison, and Ares represent toxic male and female representation. Even non-toxic people have expressed similar thoughts. For example, YouTuber Phoenix Studios, when he did his Birds of Prey rewrite, he included Jim Gordon and Bruno, a female neo-Nazi, as part of the main cast to balance the genders respectively, with Jim representing the positive male figure and Bruno representing the toxic female figure. Do you think these are fair arguments?
I mean, I'll say this, it's probably how I would do it if I was writing something, but if I see something that isn't balanced that way, the reason I don't get annoyed with it is because, I mean, you know, we've kind of had so many movies where guys are kind of the dominant force, in the sense that, like, usually women are either written to be dumb or just get in the way as damsels in distress, and, you know, basically being more of an obstacle than an actual importance to the story. So we've had so many years of that. So if we have to have a few movies where it's kind of like the role reversal, now we have a movie where, like, the majority of the men are assholes, misogynist pigs, you know, it's like, whatever. I think if this was like a majority of all female led movies, then, like, okay, I might start like having an issue with this, but it's not, as far as I can tell, it hasn't become a majority of movies starring women quite yet. And it's not like this is something that like that's becoming more and more common. I think it's just something we got for a little bit, because, like, you know, it like having women suddenly like having bigger leads in these kind of movies was new. So it's like little role reversal. That's, you know, totally fine. Like I said, I personally don't mind it. I don't know if I would personally write a movie that way, but I don't mind it when I see it, just because we've had it the other way around for so many years.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Stuart, and I would really echo a lot of what you said. I mean, are there movies that are like that? Yeah, absolutely, but I think that they're few and far in between. I think that there's a lot to take away from a movie like Barbie, is failing to empowering women because all the men are portrayed either incompetent or misogynistic pigs. I mean, it depends on what you took away from the Barbie movie also. You know, I think they're presented in that way for a particular reason, but I think the overall message is significantly different than what some people just assume the Barbie movie truly is about. So I do think that there are some messages certainly worth taking away from it. And look, I just don't even want to get into it, man, because it's just like we've spent how many decades and centuries of male leads showcasing women in other particular forms or fashion that is not empowering to women whatsoever, based off of just what our societal viewpoints are of women. So like we get a decade of women empowerment and people are still freaking out. Like I don't give a fuck. Like I just don't. Like I do not shed tears for men that feel uncomfortable with women with power. Like I just don't. Like I just don't understand how people can be so insecure with who they are as people just because of what's being represented on a television or a movie screen. Like, grab your fucking balls and man up, fellas. Like, what the fuck is wrong with these people these days? Like, I just don't. And the idea of like people say you create women lead or empowering women that they need to imbalance. No, women can empower themselves in presenting whatever story that they want to. Like, women empowering themselves doesn't mean, oh, we've got to be gracious to the men and make men feel comfortable with themselves so we as a woman can feel empowered and strong. Fuck that, man. Like, no, tell the story that you want to tell. And if you showcase the reality sometimes of what the world truly is and people feel uncomfortable with what they're seeing on screen, maybe they should go look in the mirror every once in a while, or feel, learn a little bit more something about themselves instead of pushing back saying like, oh, that's not real women empowerment. What do you know about women empowerment? You're a fucking guy. Like, you're a male. Like, and look, maybe some females feel that way too. That's more than fine. I'll let the females fight amongst them about themselves. But as a man telling a woman how they should feel empowered by having balanced representation, yeah, well, you tell that to the men for 50 to 100 years that didn't give a shit about how women were represented in movies, and then come cry to me about it. So like, no, I don't shed tears for these people, man. I just don't. I just don't. So but I would agree with you, Stuart, in the sense of I don't think it's all like that. I do think when it is moments like that, it definitely gets thrusted into the shine and spotlight a little bit more. But not all movies are like that. And I don't think movies need to be balanced in order for a woman to feel like it's an empowerment movie for them. Like, no, it don't make no sense to me. But that's just me. That's just me. Mm-hmm. People can have arguments about it all they want to, but I've got no tears for these people. I have no tears for these people.
Shed no tears.
Yeah, I got no tears for these people, man. Doomsday. What's up, Doomsday? I'll make sure I got everybody else's first. Okay. How would you rank the Neo Saban final battles from Super Samurai to Super Ninja Steel?
Ooh.
Where the main villain of the season doesn't return after being defeated how would you rank all the Neo Saban final battles from Super Samurai to Super Ninja Steel from worst to best? For me, it would be Super Mega Force, Dino Supercharge, Ninja Steel, Super Ninja Steel, and Super Samurai. Is that worst to best for him? Okay.
The battles was Sentai.
Golly.
Is that worst to best? I'm just gonna do it. I'm not gonna include the super ones. I'm just gonna go with the regular. So I would say Ninja Steel definitely had the worst. Dino Charge, as much as I did love the series as a whole, I did feel like the ending was kind of anti-climactic, or just not as epic as I kind of normally hope from a Power Rangers finale. And then Mega Force would probably be the next one above that, because like, as disappointing as the cameos were, there were some pretty awesome moments, in there, definitely. And then of course I really did love the battles in Samurai. As much as I didn't like the writing, I do think a lot of the fights, and especially like at the very end, anytime you get like the Rangers where their clothes are kind of torn, they look like completely beat, but they keep going. Those are the moments that'll always pump me up. So yeah, I know it's surprising. I rated Mega Force and Samurai higher than Dino Charge, a season that I actually liked. But you know what? I will give them credit where credit is due. They did have some pretty epic finales.
Yeah, I think mine's is pretty similar. Like, yeah, Ninja Steel, Supercharge, Dino Charge, Mega Force, and then Samurai for me would probably be my order. I would assume that's worst to best. What's your personal favorite moment in the CW's The Flash?
Ooh, that is a tough question.
A lot of my stuff is from the earlier seasons, just because I eventually fell off. But I always loved Tom Cavanaugh's performances as Wells. I think the Wells reveal was always great to me. Um, of him being Reverse Flash, that was always a great one for me. I even love seasons 2 in regards to like the who was under the mask and the reveal and stuff. I loved all those. So those are some of my favorite moments. But yeah.
Oh man, I think my favorite, and god damn it, is so hard to choose because there are some great ones. I gotta go with the finale of season 1. That moment that Barry gets with his mother right before she passes off.
Yeah.
So emotional, so well acted. You know, and it'll make a grown man cry, man. That scene was just so incredible. Yeah, I think that is definitely undoubtedly my favorite moment from The Flash.
When they were adapting Go Sager and Go Kaiger, do you think they should have just adapted Go Sager for both Megaforce and Super Megaforce and had Go Kaiger be its own adaptation instead of Go Sager being Megaforce and Go Kaiger being Super Megaforce? Yes, absolutely. I stand to that to this day.
Yeah, definitely. If anything, I think that they should have done Go Kaiger first and then Go Sager, just because Go Kaiger would have been perfect, because then it would lined up perfectly with the 20th anniversary.
Oh, interesting one. Okay, I like that. I like that take. The most talented man in the world. The enduring legacy of Superman. Superman's enduring appeal stems from his unique blend of extraordinary power and ordinary humanity. He embodies the best of both worlds, an alien with immense strength, speed, and vulnerability, yet a gentle soul guided by a strong moral compass. This duality, coupled with his unwavering belief in truth, justice, and the American way, has made him a timeless icon. The everyman hero, despite his godlike powers, Superman's alter ego, Clark Kent, is a relatable figure. He's a mild-mannered reporter next door, a symbol of the potential within ordinary people. Hope and optimism. Superman's character is inherently optimistic, inspiring hope in the face of adversity. He represents the belief that good can triumph over evil. His unwavering moral code and commitment to justice make him a beacon of hope and the role model for many. While many actors have portrayed Superman, a few stand out as particularly iconic. Christopher Reeve. Reeve's portrayal of Superman in the 70s and 80s is often considered a definitive performance. His portrayal captured the character's essence, balancing power and vulnerability with grace and charm. Second runner-up is Tom Welling from the popular TV series Smallville. This focused on Clark's teenage years and his journey to becoming the iconic superhero we all know. It is explored in his early life in Smallville, Kansas, his developing powers and his relationship with friends and family. Smallville was a groundbreaking series that helped revitalize the superhero genre on television. It ran for 10 seasons and is still beloved by many. Henry Cavill. Cavill's more recent portrayal in the DCEU has brought a more modern gritty edge to the character, still honoring his classic roots. While Reeve's performance remains legendary, Cavill's portrayal has also garnered significant praise for its physicality and emotional depth. Tyler Hoechlin, who is the current portrayer of the Man of Steel in the HBO Max series, now in its 4th and final season, has been widely praised for its depth, nuance, and authenticity. He captures the character's inherent goodness, moral compass, and unwavering dedication to truth and justice. Hoechlin's Clark Kent is a relatable and emphatic figure, balancing that extraordinary powers of Superman with the ordinary struggle of family life. His performance has resonated with fans and critics alike, solidifying his place as one of the most beloved live-action portrayals of the iconic character. Ultimately, Superman's enduring legacy is a testament to the power of storytelling and the enduring appeal of a hero who represents the best of humanity. What did Superman's legacy mean to you growing up? How did it impact you as a person?
Ooh, okay. I'll let you go first.
I think for me, Superman's legacy, I think really stands to me from just like a really like a moral perspective. You know, I think in a time and age when villains are the cool thing and people think Homelander's the hero of his own story, you know, like I Superman's legacy really rings true to me today. I mean, even growing up, the idea of emphasizing morals, telling the truth, right? Being honest, supporting people around you, helping others, whether you've got power or whether you don't. I think for me, that's what Superman's legacy has always kind of meant to me growing up. And even to today, as far as like, how did it impact me? Certainly as a person, like when I think of what a superhero should be, when I think of what a good person should be, even though we're certainly not all perfect, I think the idea, look, if you're a religious person, right? Like some people will say, you know, look to Jesus, look to God as like your moral compass. You know, maybe some people for big comic book fans, even if they're religious or not, look to Superman certainly as your moral compass. I think that's what he certainly represents, from even when I was growing up to how it impacts me today as a person. So yeah, that's what it's left for me, at least.
You know, I got to be honest. It wasn't until I want to say a little bit late into my high school years where I actually started to become a actual fan of Superman. And the reason is because like most Superman that I would read would be from Justice League or, you know, from the Justice League TV series. Yeah, I watched a little bit of Superman, the animated series, and really loved it. And I always thought Superman was a fun character, but I guess maybe just because I didn't truly understand you know, why he was important at the time. It wasn't until like kind of years later of why I understood what's so important about having a guy with so much power who wants to do the right thing constantly. I guess it just, you know, that was just one of those things that really took me years to kind of like realize how significant that is. So it wasn't really until high school, and then around that time is when Man of Steel was coming out, and that was when I was like starting to really become a fan of Superman, starting to really get into it. And yeah, that's partly why Man of Steel, like I didn't hate Man of Steel. I thought it was okay, but it didn't, you know, blow me away the way I was like kind of hoping you know, a Superman movie would. Not in the way that I'm really hoping that like James Gunn's Superman movie does. Like I still like got my hopes up for that one. But yeah, I think and then I think another thing that got me into Superman, you know, I think it was because I read a lot of the Jeff Johns Teen Titans run, and one of my favorite superheroes in that, like right underneath Nightwing, was Superboy, specifically the Connor Kent version of Superboy. And so he was kind of my Superman, if that makes sense. He was like the one that I you know, would look at as like, you know, the most powerful member of the Teen Titans, but that would also scare him about himself, because like when he found out that he's not fully in control of himself, and Lex Luthor temporarily takes control of him, forces him to really harm his teammates. I love that. I love the fact that he was this guy with so much power, but then became afraid to use it because he was afraid when he discovered like what it could do, you know? So it's like, so it was also kind of like in Superman in that sense of like, you know, he's a guy who has all this power, but he doesn't want to use it because he's a good person. And I think that's always like a really cool thing to look it's something I like about what they did with Jordan's arc too in this current season of Superman and Lois, him not wanting to use his power because of how much he really messed things up earlier. So I think, yeah, those kind of storylines, when you use your powers wrong and then you regret it, you know, I always love those kind of things when, you know, you take the correct actions in order to make up for your mistakes. And yeah, I think that like, yeah, I know this was about Superman, but I couldn't help but like kind of use that excuse to talk about Connor Kent.
Oh, if it's all in the same vein, man. Peg C says, have you seen the video of Walter Jones and Austin St. John on their YouTube channel Fan Word, where they try to imitate the morphing sequences from different seasons? I might have seen a clip of it. I don't know if I've watched the whole thing. He does put a YouTube link here, so I'll definitely have to go ahead and check it out. But have you seen it, Stuart?
I saw parts of it because I saw people like posting it on Instagram.
Yeah, I have to go ahead and check that one out for sure. What are your thoughts on the recent episode of The Simpsons being revealed that Mr. Burns promised was that Abe, that he would give Abe's young son Homer a power plant job when Homer grew up? Even more importantly, in ways Mr. Burns could never imagine, the deal also meant he couldn't fire Homer.
Oh, so they kind of retconned one of my favorite moments from The Simpsons. So I'm not a fan of that then, because I haven't seen the newest episodes. Although I do really want to watch the season premiere, or as it was called, the quote unquote series finale, which it wasn't, but it was like a parody of finales. But no, like one of my favorite moments in The Simpsons was when Homer like begged Mr. Burns for the job because, like, you know, he felt like he needed to support his family and he couldn't do it with his current job. So he basically just kind of like goes to Mr. Burns and says, like, you know, the most serious way, if you need someone to kiss your ass and do all the jobs that no one wants to, that will be me. I will kiss your butt as much as you need, Mr. Burns. And Mr. Burns, of course, hires him. And then my favorite joke is, Homer, I will always remember that name. And then, of course, you know, if you watch the show, the joke is he never remembers his name.
I love it. I love it. Let's see here. My friends call me Joseph. What's up, Joseph? Appreciate you coming through with another question here, man. PS5 and gaming industry challenges. The Sony PlayStation 5, like any new console generation, has faced its fair share of challenges. But when it came to the PlayStation 5 in particular, the main issue that impacted it since its original launch was scalping and reselling. The PS5's popularity has made it a target for scalpers who have brought large quantities and resold them at inflated prices, making it extremely difficult for genuine consumers to obtain the console at MSRP retail price. This allowed them to create online bots, which would make it very difficult for customers to order the console before and during pre-order. And because the console was brand new and equipped with new technology, software, hardware, developers had to adapt to the PS5's new architect and powerful hardware, which was a complex and time-consuming process where new games were difficult to be released. The most infamous example was Cyberpunk 2077, which suffered from a huge number of issues with the PS5 and other consoles. What do you think and remember when the PS5 got announced and eventually released, and how hard it was to attain one, and how the industry learned or avoided from the fiasco, or any other console had a similar situation, or none at all?
So before we answer that, I just got to point out how funny it is. The PS5 is so advanced that you reading this sentence caused your computer to lag.
Oh, mine isn't. I'm lagging still.
Not anymore, but there was a brief moment as you were reading about the PS5, you started to lag, and I'm like, oh wow, the PS5 is so advanced that just talking about it makes you lag.
I will say, are PS5s easy to come by now? At least.
A lot easier now.
Yeah.
That it took way too long for us to get a PS5 when it first came out. Like, I think it was over a year before I could finally get a hold of it. Whereas like PlayStation 4, I think I got that like the week it came out. I know that there may have been issues around PlayStation 3's launch. I wouldn't know because I didn't get a PlayStation 3 until like years and years later. I actually got the 360, but I know that the original model for the PS3, which is really, really hard to come by, the one that was $600, and still, because of what it was made from, Sony was still losing money from selling them, because I think they cost like $800 to make, and they were selling them for like $600. So I know that was probably the one that was almost like the PS5 situation. They got sold really fast, and there's a reason that the PS3 became made with that they became cheaper like later on because of that. And I guess they just couldn't make that same compromise for the PS5, where they had like the cheaper versions of the PS3 that came out later that everyone was able to get a hold of. I guess the PS5 was too advanced and they couldn't make a cheaper version of it. So if I had to guess, I would assume that's probably why.
Yeah, maybe. You definitely know better than me, man. I haven't had a video game system since Xbox One came out. It's just so expensive, and I'm sure they're going to continue to get more and more expensive with each iteration that comes out. But yeah, I did have hopes of trying to get one a while back, but I just became too disappointed in the idea of like, man, this is so much harder to find one and so much more expensive. So I was like, yeah, never mind.
If you ever do, though, you must get Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay. And then last but not least, Power of the Morphing Grid. I'm assuming this is AJ. What's up, AJ? The Phantom Ranger remains one of the most unknown and important figures in the Power Ranger universe. His mysterious nature and limited appearances only added to the intrigue surrounding his identity. While the show itself didn't fully reveal his identity, it definitely offered some intriguing clues and expanded his lore with Power Rangers mythos, including the Boom Studios comics. Yeah, I was going to say, didn't they have a Power Rangers Unlimited story or something like that that focused on his origin stories a bit. It says while his role in Turbo was somewhat limited, like being a potential love interest to Cassie, the second Pink Ranger, Turbo Ranger, his impact on Power Rangers in space was significant. He was a mysterious figure who provided crucial support to the Space Rangers, even gifting them with the powerful Delta Megazord. His enigmatic nature and unexpected acts of heroism have solidified his place as one of the most beloved and iconic characters in the Power Ranger franchise. Do you have any other questions about the Phantom Ranger or Power Ranger characters? Perhaps Billy Cranston or a future version of Justin Stewart was one of the potential candidates as the man underneath the helmet. I don't remember. I gotta read that Power Ranger Universe Boom Studios comic to learn a little bit more about him.
I haven't heard the Justin Stewart theory before. That's actually kind of interesting. But we know it is not Billy because of Once and Always. We see that the Phantom Ranger is one of the many Rangers that are part of Rita's collection, like in the little figurine section. Of course, Billy's in Once and Always, so we know he can't possibly be the Phantom Ranger if that's the case. But Justin Stewart, though, on the other hand, that's an interesting theory.
Interesting.
We didn't see the Blue Turbo Ranger in her collection, so maybe he revamped the Turbo Morpher in order to give him, because he couldn't access the morphing grid through the Turbo Morpher, so he had to revamp it, and it gave him a new look. Could be.
I do dig that concept. That sounds like a pretty good theory to me. But yeah, guys, that will do it for all of our live viewer questions for today. So thank you, everybody that certainly joined us here and certainly participated. Remember, we'll post a live viewer question post every Saturday, if not in the afternoon, then check back in the evening, and we should have something set for you guys if you ever want to go ahead and submit a live viewer question over. But that will do it for that segment of the show, and we'll go ahead and wrap up here. We have the season finale of The Penguin tonight, if I'm not mistaken. I just watched episode 5 last night, so I'm gonna have to knock out episodes 6 and 7 before watching the finale. But I love the series so far. I don't know what other shows are coming up, with the exception of Skeleton Crew. We will be doing weekly reviews for Skeleton Crew. I believe it's like a 2-episode premiere beginning December 3rd, which is a Tuesday. When did we do reviews last time? Was it Wednesday nights?
I do not remember.
I do not remember either. I'll have to go back and look at the release dates of our lives. So if not Wednesday nights, then definitely Thursday nights we'll certainly get together. But I'll definitely keep you guys posted. If anything, I'll probably work on some overlays for us and get that prepared and ready. I also downloaded the Hellboy movie, The Crooked Man. I know it had a limited theatrical release in the UK, but it's not getting one here. I'm not even sure if when it's going to be available digitally. I haven't really seen it anywhere, but I did manage to download it. So I've watched a portion of it. I started watching it late and I wound up passing out. It was just a really long day, but I'm going to try and give it another watch, and maybe I'll have a Hellboy review up for you guys later on this week, and any other movies that I might certainly check out this week. But yeah. And then any other news or trailers or movies that wind up dropping, maybe we'll do some videos for you guys here as well. But Stuart, if people want to find you on social media, man, where can they find you?
You guys can find me at TurboStew01 over on Twitter and on Letterboxd.
And if you want to follow us on social media, everywhere, as you see down below, at A+ Opinions. We're also on TikTok at Hero Report. If you like your forum communities, we do have a Discord you can join. It is a link in the description box below as well. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, guys, please go ahead and do so. We got some great content there for you guys. Hit that like button along with that bell notification, so when we do drop brand new videos, you'll certainly be notified. So certainly subscribe to the channel. If you want to follow us on social media, I highly recommend recommend the Facebook page as well. That's where we drop all the news throughout the week, posters, trailers, reels for you guys also. And then we take 6 topics from our Facebook page and we talk about them here at A+ Hero Report. But other than that, guys, that's going to do it for us here today. We'll certainly see you guys next weekend. So in the meantime, do us a big favor, as always, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.